Chapter 181. Under the cute bull mask, Li Che's eyes sharpened, as the stronghold and the surrounding powerhouses of the Black Snake Gang were not only numerous but also of high quality. Among them was an 8 Extremes Corpse Curse seal, which trembled slightly and emerged under the impact of the Death Chi. An 8 Extremes Corpse God envoy of the Corpse God cult. With a sigh from beneath the mask, Li Che took a deep breath. An ambush, indeed. Black Snake Gang had become the bait that lured him to bite. After all, only a few forces of the fishing gang were left now, and since the Black Snake Gang had been monitoring XIXI because of her significant connection with Bull Demon, they had constantly been stalking and lying in ambush. But it was also because of the relationship between XIXI and Bull Demon. Thus, the fishing gang believed that Bull Demon would definitely make a move against the Black Snake Gang. Lu Jinsong and Thunder Old 7, two vice leaders of the fishing gang, were currently hidden within the Black Snake Gang's stronghold, concealing their energy and aura, using a secret technique to shield their divinity. There was also a corpse god envoy from the corpse god cult nearby, exuding a tremendously terrifying presence. Though quite distant, the intimidation it brought was exceedingly fearsome. All were quietly waiting for Bull Demon to take the bait. A divine minister, two from illusory phase realm, this setup was truly no small matter, quite a show of respect. You guys are really something. Li Che chuckled. With Flying Thunder Chess Saint present, he had the freedom to come and go as he pleased, even if he was just bait, he could easily consume it. Consuming bait was Bull Demon's specialty. From the start of his career, he had always been on the path of bait consumption. Fishing? Li Che loved fishing the most. The fishing gang just couldn't believe it, they must have guessed that Bull Demon possessed the art of teleportation, so they had set the ambush in advance. Or rather, they were confident they had mastered a means to counter the art of teleportation. But Bull Demon's teleportation was not just any ordinary art of teleportation. Though he possessed the teleportation technique from Flying Thunder Chess Saint, Li Che still felt it unnecessary to take such a huge risk and recklessly charge into an ambush. Being a bit more cautious in life never hurts. Li Che, donning the Bull Demon mask, was mad, wild, and completely unrestrained. But not foolhardy. A sinister, low chuckle came from beneath the cute bull mask. Grandpa Bull, I won't play with you guys anymore. Moreover, killing didn't necessarily require close quarters. A fierce wind howled furiously. With the tips of his feet touching down, his burly body shattered the biting cold wind, blending silently into the shadows. Hey! Suddenly, Li Che let out a soft exclamation. Within the heaven and earth chessboard, a familiar aura brazenly intruded, resembling a thunderous serpent across the land, swiftly moving, dominant and imperious as it approached. Recklessly, utterly reckless. Inside the room, the lights were bright. The leader of the Black Snake Gang sat upright on a chair, his expression solemn. By his side, a heavy iron broadsword stood by, gripped in his hands. Sitting upright with his sword across his Taishi chair, the eyes of the Black Snake Gang leader were radiant, appearing calm and collected. But his grip on the broadsword was uncontrollably sweating, with veins popping and twitching non-stop, revealing the tension in his heart at this moment. Although using the corpse curse seal, he had forged himself into a cursed iron corpse, his physical body rivaling the strength of a grandmaster. His divine base had also been forcibly elevated by the masterful cultivation of the leader of the fishing gang, promising him a chance at survival by reaching divine base perfection. But he was still somewhat horrified. After all, the name of Bull Demon was indeed formidable within Golden Light Prefecture City. The slaughters of 7 subordinate gangs of the fishing gang. All were due to Bull Demon. Mutilated corpses, exploded heads, rivers of blood. Facing such a ruthless and violent criminal, how could the leader of the Black Snake Gang not be afraid? Who the heck isn't afraid of dying? Now that my body is forged into a cursed iron corpse, I rival a grandmaster. Bull Demon cannot possibly defeat me instantly. As long as I survive, the forces lying in ambush will strike, and Bull Demon will be unable to escape. The leader of the Black Snake Gang inwardly encouraged himself. Will Bull Demon come? He certainly will. The leader of the Black Snake Gang knew well, according to the information from Zhongxiang Yang, that Bull Demon was XIXI's protector. Having monitored XIXI for so long, how could Bull Demon possibly let the Black Snake Gang off the hook? I just need to hold on. I just need not to be defeated instantly. Bull Demon will surely die if he comes. Thinking of the forces lying in ambush around him, the leader of the Black Snake Gang breathed heavily, stirring up a sharp wind. Suddenly, he heard the sound of thunder by his ear. He abruptly looked up, his pupils constricting. Bull Demon came. However, when the leader of the Black Snake Gang heard the thunderous roar, the thunder had already reached him. In the pitch-black night sky behind, as if Thor himself had fiercely hammered down a thunderbolt from the vast heights. With the thunder tearing through the darkness, the head of the Black Snake Gang leader, transformed into a cursed iron corpse, burst explosively. With a dull thud, the ground behind the leader of the Black Snake Gang immediately sank into a deep pit, with radial cracks weaving and spreading. A brilliant blue ramhorn hammer, smashing into the center of the deep pit, with dust flying around, sizzling currents of electricity arced. Bull Demon had not crouched down. But the ram had arrived. Chapter 182, Grandmaster's Ultimate Study. Crack! Boom! The storm raged, with flashes of lightning and peals of thunder. Drops of rain flew down from the dark clouds, pouring over the human world. Sizzle sizzle sizzle! Streaks of lightning danced on the azure ramhorn hammer, as if endowed with life, and the majestic and tyrannical divinity interwove upon it. The leader of the Black Snake Gang, a strong fighter who had tempered his flesh with the corpse curse mark to the level of a cursed iron corpse. Even a grandmaster would find him extremely troublesome and difficult to defeat with ease. Yet, the ramhorn hammer that roared towards him shattered his skull effortlessly, blasting it into pieces, which spoke volumes of the formidable strength and divinity contained within. The Black Snake Gang's stronghold, along with the spreading stench of blood, instantly became a frenzy, with many of its members trembling in fear and shock. They looked in the direction of the lightning and thunder. They saw a figure with a cat face mask, striding with hands behind his back, twisting the wind and rain, lightly stepping on the black tiled roofs, arriving as if floating through the air. After landing outside the gang's courtyard, he stepped forward lightly with a lifted foot. With every step, it seemed as though he called the earth to tremble in synchrony, like the beat of a drum pounding in the chest, making the hearts of the Black Snake Gang members nearly freeze, and their heartbeats to be drawn out and connected. Puh! A quenched bone warrior couldn't bear it, sweating profusely and coughing up blood, collapsing to the ground with uncontainable fear in his eyes. Many blood exchange warriors were also on the verge of exploding, nearly unable to stand steady. The cat face mask, the ramhorn hammer. Ramhorn Sky Shatterer, Li Qingshan. The members of the Black Snake Gang felt their souls escaping, they knew all too well the weight of the name Li Qingshan. How many experts had that ramhorn hammer killed in Mansion City? How much expert blood had it soaked in? Compared to Bull Demon, they were even more terrified of this notorious being. The rain fell from the sky, but before it could reach Li Qingshan, it was completely twisted away by an invisible chi mechanism. In front of Nurse Momo, Li Qingshan always appeared hunched and aged, all to prevent her from developing other thoughts and to tell her that he too had aged. But when it came to killing, Li Qingshan was not like that. He stretched with a lazy yawn, and countless divinities converged as if they were a thunderbolt Xiaolong coiling behind him, opening its mouth to yawn and stretching its body. Still, Mansion City is the most comfortable place, I can mobilize as much divinity as I want. True chi and vitality can also be used recklessly. Under the cat face mask, a faint laugh spread out. It's a pity that you didn't kill me while I was away from Mansion City. His voice echoed within the eerily silent Black Snake Gang courtyard. No one dared to answer. The members of the Black Snake Gang knew that Li Qingshan was not really conversing with them. The two deputy leaders of the Black Snake Gang, in utter terror, trembling legs, threw away their weapons and knelt on the ground. Spare us! Peak Master Li, spare our lives! Perhaps taking the lead, the members of the Black Snake Gang threw down their weapons one after another and knelt down, devoid of any will to resist. Li Qingshan, under the mask, glanced indifferently. He clenched his 5 fingers. The ramhorn sky-breaking hammer, shooting with lightning arcs, suddenly shot back from where it was wedged in the pit, smashing the heads of the 2 deputy leaders in the process, blasting blood and brain matter everywhere. With a slap, Li Qingshan grasped the ramhorn sky-breaking hammer, not paying attention to the Black Snake Gang members, stomped the ground, and a surging surge of vitality erupted instantly, transforming into 3 roaring flood dragons soaring into the heavens. Qian Yuan Divine Sect, the Grandmaster's ultimate skill in body tempering, 8 flood dragons overturning the rivers. Boom! The entire ground instantly exploded, with numerous cracks spreading wildly, countless shattered rocks lifted by underground heat blasting into the air. Li Qingshan, with 3 heads of blood flood dragons coiling around, charged out like an ancient ferocious beast. A house instantly exploded. Li Qingshan. The voice was heavy, with a hint of dread. It was Lu Jinsong, the illusory phase realm cultivator and deputy leader of the fishing gang. Concealed here, his purpose was to set a trap for Bull Demon in coordination with experts from the corpse god cult and to lay a net of heaven and earth. However, he had not expected Bull Demon, but instead caught a ram that broke through the heavens. Li Qingshan was much more difficult to deal with than Bull Demon. Not just because of his identity, but also his strength. The robust Tru Chi swept wildly, clearing away the debris from the exploded house, and Li Qingshan, holding the ramhorn hammer in one hand, stood tall in the midst. Centered on his body, the surrounding airflow was aggressively pressured away by the raging 3-headed blood flood dragons. Rising into the air, Lu Jinsong, with the vague and illusory divine minister's appearance behind him, had a very ugly expression. Bull Demon has slaughtered 7 forces under my fishing gang, today's trap was solely set to kill Bull Demon. What are you mixing into, Li Qingshan? Lu Jinsong exclaimed angrily. Ranked 7th on the Yunzhou Divine Foundation spectrum, possessing the 6 ministries divine base, suspension thought thunderstrike evil annihilator, he had also mastered the master's ultimate study from Qianyuan divine sect, 8 flood dragons river overturning skill. Ordinary illusory phase realm cultivators were no match for Li Qingshan. Unless it was a cultivator who had also fashioned a 6 offices level illusory aspect, otherwise one could hardly suppress Li Qingshan with rank. And who could compete with Li Qingshan, who mastered the divine sect ultimate skill, 8 flood dragons river overturning skill, in a direct fight of physical strength? I am a wanderer of the divine sect, if I don't take care of it, who will? Li Qingshan smiled beneath the mask. The next moment, he exhaled thunderously, his voice startling and majestic. Without any nonsense, Li Qingshan knew who Bull Demon was, the reason why Bull Demon had fought with bare hands against forces under the fishing gang by following the reports. This fishing gang, colluding with the corpse god cult, harming ordinary people, cultivating evil techniques, they deserve to die. Chapter 183. Today, he returned to Golden Light Prefecture City to intimidate and to display his boldness. He wanted those fellows in Golden Light Prefecture City to once again remember his ramhorn hammer wielded by Li Qingshan. Li Qingshan took a step forward, and 3 furious dragons writhed as if flames leapt. It was as though countless arcs of lightning burst and scampered, sweeping across with the sound of his voice in an instant. You say I can't manage? Boom! The ramhorn hammer tore through the air, as if a giant hammer struck a drum surface, with the heavens and earth as the drum, and numerous bolts of lightning sprung up, the arcs of lightning shooting into the sky as if a thunderstorm whipped the human world. Just one hammer blow dominated and overwhelmed. Within 100 yards, all was dazzling lightning to the extreme. The lightning entwined with the Grand Master Vitality furious dragons, making the world seem to lose its luster in that moment. Lu Jinsong's illusory divine aspect was, at that moment, overshadowed and dim. This one hammer. Such a hammer. The divinity of the 6 bureaus pervaded the heavens and the earth, entangled within the shadow of the hammer, Li Qingshan's spirit, Tru Chi, and boldness, all bursting forth with this hammer blow. I will die. I am going to die. I am at the divine phase realm. Lu Jinsong roared furiously, and with a violent push of his hands forward, the void aspect divine figures, as though solidified in the heavens and earth, glared down upon the human world. However, beneath the cute bull mask, Li Qingshan sneered. His hammer swept past, the thunderous hammer sound resonating with his sneer through heaven and earth. Divine Minister? Mere illusion. Besides, what kind of divine foundation have you forged? What sort of divine foundation have I forged? My divine foundation, traded for with my life before the temple god. You dare compare with me? In the darkness, Li Che, wearing the cute bull mask, concealed his essence, chi, and spirit, blending into it, as he watched Li Qingshan's move from afar. So fierce. Li Che's pupils contracted slightly, shaken to the core. Just feeling the faint traces of lightning that reached out made his flesh tingle, as if his very cells were numbed by the stimulation. To shatter the darkness with lightning. All evil spirits dispersed. Unrivaled in dominance. And that Grand Master Vitality, so robust, with 3 heads of furious dragons that seemed ready to overturn rivers and seas, changing the very complexion of the world. He was much more powerful than the time in Feilei City, not even on the same level. Li Che knew, in Fei Lei City, Li Qingshan had no divinity within him, relying solely on his physical body, and it seemed even his bodily vitality could not be released at will. Yet even then, he had crushed 3 cursed iron corpse experts of the corpse god cult. Li Che thought that even with Li Qingshan's divinity in place and his vitality unrestrained, he wouldn't be so strong. But who knew the gap could be so vast? Li Qingshan was only at the divine foundation level after all. However, Li Che quickly calmed down, his eyes focused intently as his mind whirled with endless thoughts, flipping through ideas ceaselessly. Finally, he exhaled a breath that rumbled like rolling thunder. In an instant, his figure blended into the darkness. Without a sound, without a trace. Pu. In the night sky, countless droplets of spring rain were blasted into smithereens, exploding into a dense fog of mist. The illusory divine minister, like a porcelain sculpture riddled with cracks, shattered to pieces and dissipated into the world. The deputy leader of the fishing gang, Lu Jinsong, cried out in agony as he spat a mouthful of fresh blood, his tragic screams tearing through the darkness of the night. With a single hammer strike, lightning illuminated the pitch-black sky like a spider's web erupting, as if even the void itself had been shattered. Lu Jinsong's body was sent flying horizontally in mid-air by the blow, his bones crackling loudly, and as he hung suspended, uncontrollably spewing blood that resembled dense mercury. Thud! Lu Jinsong crashed onto the main street, where the bricks shattered and the ground collapsed beneath him, dust billowing out in a widening circle from the impact. Just one hammer strike, and Lu Jinsong, of the illusory phase realm, was defeated. Cough, cough, cough. Isn't the corpse god envoy going to make a move? In the large crater in the street, Lu Jinsong, clutching his chest, teetered on his feet as he roared with eyes about to split. With just one strike of the hammer, he was bloodied all over. Had it been a real fight to the death, he would have been hammered to death. Therefore, at this moment, he did not hesitate to reveal the hidden identity of the corpse god envoy. A fellow deist may die, but I shall not. The masters of the corpse god cult, draw the firepower. He had no sense of shame, too many with the void aspect had been hammered by Li Qingshan, one more made no difference, it was normal to be unable to fight back. The main thing was, he was truly terrified by the power of that one strike for the first time. Indeed, a master from the Yunzhou Divine Foundation spectrum. How terrifying must those in the top 3 be? All he wanted now was to escape. Lu Jinsong's body swayed, and in the same moment he yelled out, he cast a divine secret technique, turning into a streak of blood that shot away in an instant. Amidst Lu Jinsong's roaring, Li Qingshan ignored the fleeing Lu Jinsong, his eyes brimming with a surge of murderous intent. Compared to Lu Jinsong, the masters of the corpse god cult were the bigger fish. His divine sense ran rampant as he gripped the ramhorn hammer and smashed it down onto the ground, the currents of electricity spreading from the earth in all directions. Come out, you bastard! Li Qingshan bellowed. Behind him emerged a millstone-like divine foundation, as if it were piled up with thunderbolts. Atop the divine foundation, ancient symbols composed of countless lightning bolts moved around, and an aura unique to a temple god diffused from it. In the distance, dense corpse chi and death chi rose into the sky, and in a flash, the world seemed to grow even darker. A temple god rose into the air, its appearance bizarre, with a giant nose swinging as if it were the hammer of heaven and earth, and a strange fragrance immediately wafted and drifted from that nose. 6 desires. Pillow nose fragrance corpse god. A divine minister of the corpse god cult. A dark figure emerged from the cosmos, its rank pressure sweeping out, causing Li Qingshan, who was gripping the ramhorn hammer under the mask of a cute cow, to suddenly narrow his eyes. Chapter 184. True divine phase realm cultivators are not as easy to hammer as illusory phase realm cultivators. Although named divine phase, illusory phase cultivators do not possess the divine symbol cultivator's divine phase rank pressure, therefore, Li Qingshan still had room for counterattack relying on his 6 ministries divine base. However, with a real divine phase realm cultivator, once the rank pressure is released, Li Qingshan would find it difficult to swing his hammer at will. But, naturally, the divine phase would have to be dealt with by another divine phase. It seems I've forced out a big fish. Li Qingshan smiled, his eyes sparkling. The bull demon has really driven the corpse god sect into a corner, to actually deploy an 8 extremes corpse god envoy for a personal ambush. What a lineup this is! I, Li Qingshan, am no more than this after all. How long has that guy been in Mansion City? Everyone, are you still just watching the excitement? A divine phase from the corpse god sect, isn't this an excellent opportunity for glory? I, Li Qingshan, will not compete with you all for it. Li Qingshan stopped hammering and smiled. In the void, that corpse god envoy shrouded in dense corpse chi, wearing a white mask with a huge 8 written in blood on it, had eyes cold and silent. Behind him, the divine minister with a huge nose, swung his nose fiercely, as if throbbing the heaven and earth. The void was instantly shattered, about to break through and leave. Originally, he had been arranged to ambush the bull demon alone, waiting for the bull demon to act. He would then suppress him with divine phase rank pressure, combined with divine talismans and divine weapons to seal the void, and capture the bull demon first. The bull demon possessed an 8th rank corpse curse mark that must be reclaimed. But instead of waiting for the bull demon, they got a crazed sheep. Bad luck! Ha 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 ha, Li Qingshan, you've stirred up such a big fuss as soon as you returned. Suddenly, a light laughter enveloped heaven and earth. A refined young man in robes, seemingly youthful, walked through the air. Although he had not released divine phase, the terrifying oppression had already distorted heaven and earth. This caused the corpse god sex expert to have a particularly ugly expression. Qin Tianjian Deputy Inspector Lin Qiu. This corpse god sex expert stood on end. He was lying in wait for the bull demon, but the bull demon was just bait, used to catch him. However, he quickly calmed down, his eyes beneath the mask remaining cold and composed. Our sect's divine might rolls in, Yun province will be the next Jizhu, and you will all kneel before the might of the corpse god, basking in divine grace. The indifferent voice came from the 8 Extremes corpse god envoy. You are but moths to the flame, even Ji Moli was obstructed by our sect, you all, will ultimately be reduced to ashes under the great trend. Great trend? What great trend do you count for? Deputy Inspector Lin Qiu scoffed, arching his eyebrows disdainfully, and with a single hook of his fingers, streams of air stirred violently, divine phase pressure thundered and rolled, like a storm pressing down. Li Qingshan silently stepped back. In the battle of divine phases, he no longer interfered. Today was considered a case of catching a big fish, also the biggest gain of his triumphant return. Only the corpse god sect's infiltration into the various forces of Mansion City was much worse than he had imagined. As for this divine symbol cultivator from the corpse god sect and how he would be easily captured was no longer his concern. Since this corpse god envoy made a grand appearance, he was like a rat crossing the street. When the corpse god sect acted in the shadows, none could intervene, each had their own thoughts, but once exposed, no one really wanted to flip the table and admit to joining hands with the demon sect, thus, they would all act, and Mansion City had divine phases sitting in a state, this divine minister from the corpse god sect. He truly had no escape. The fishing gang's leader, Jing Wudao, could no longer hide and had to curse and lash out. Meanwhile, in the Temple Control Bureau, a divine symbol cultivator released pressure. This night, Mansion City was in chaos. A battle of divine phases, triggered by the ploy to catch the bull demon, erupted thunderously. And yet, from the beginning to the end, the bull demon, who was supposed to be caught, did not even show a single hair. Boom! The divine phase rank suppressive force collided with a boom, as if thunder rolled within the clouds. The night sky above Mansion City seemed to brighten significantly. A blood-red thread streaked rapidly through the sky. After shooting out of the city, it continued to blast dozens of feet before smashing harshly onto the official road, gouging a trench into the ground. Lu Jinsong's body, as if flung out by a tremendous force, hit the ground and, like a stone skipping across water, bounced several times before coming to a stop. Steam rose in plumes, with smoke billowing unrestrained. A deep pit appeared on the official road, with interlaced cracks concaved from the impact. Heat and dense smell of blood made it nearly unbearable, lingering without dispersing. Lu Jinsong staggered to his feet within the pit, turning his head back for a glance at the divine symbol cultivators battling high above the city. His face shifted through myriad expressions. Li Qingshan. Lu Jinsong ground his teeth in frustration and anger. He pulled his leg free, ready to turn around and flee. While everyone was distracted by the divine symbol battle, it was the perfect time for him to escape. He had intentionally provoked the corpse god sect's corpse god envoy to create an opportunity for himself to break away. Right now, with the divine symbol battle inside the city, Li Qingshan won't be able to pay attention to me, it's impossible he would come to kill me. Cough cough cough. That damn Li Qingshan. Such a thunderous slay evil. Once I join the corpse god cult and cultivate the cursed copper corpse, I'll certainly come back. When the corpse god cult breaks through Golden Light Prefecture City, captures divine sect Zhanglei Peak, I will personally twist off your dog head, Li Qingshan. Lu Jinsong was full of unwillingness. His eyes flickered as a corpse curse mark emanating a strong death chi surfaced on his mud pill palace. In an instant, countless corpse chi writhed beneath his skin like flood dragons, aiding him in rapidly recovering his injuries. Wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth, he utilized a last-ditch escape technique that relied on his blood, for now his expenditure was enormous. His whole body felt as if drained of blood. Fortunately, the powerful Grandmaster body was continuously generating new blood, offering him a new lease on life, but he needed to find a place to heal quickly, else his severe injuries would permanently cut off his path to becoming a divine symbol. Divine foundation of 6 offices level, indeed extraordinary. Too bad, I'm not a real divine phase cultivator, otherwise under the pressure of rank, you, Li Qingshan, would not dare to act rashly. Lu Jinsong coughed up a mouthful of filthy blood, his face dark with frustration. Boom! Dark clouds blanketed the heavens, ink spreading across the night sky, as countless lightning snakes roamed and rolled within the clouds. The long-contained downpour finally broke free, drenching the mountains, land, and rivers of the entire Golden Light Prefecture. The world became hazy and pitch black, obscuring one's senses. Lu Jinsong, soaked through by the rain, was about to leave the deep pit. However, the moment he tried to pull his foot out of the pit, his movement abruptly halted. His strong illusory phase realm cultivator's divine sense made him realize something was amiss. From all around, it felt as if a tide of terrifying and suffocating intent to kill was flooding in. Like a quiet deer grazing in the forest suddenly senses the bone-chilling dread of being targeted by a skilled hunter. Rainwater gathered into streams on Lu Jinsong's chin, dripping down endlessly. Suddenly, the dark cloud rumbled with lightning, illuminating endless white light. In the brilliant white light, Lu Jinsong's hair stood on end as he suddenly saw, just 2 yards in front of him, a figure wearing a bamboo hat had appeared silently. As his gaze fell upon him, the figure under the hat abruptly lifted his face, splashing countless droplets of water, revealing a cute bull mask that seemed all the more lively and adorable in the pouring rain. Chapter 185, Deadly Poison, Lime, Divine Crystal Powder, Ascending the Tower unleashes Dragon Elephant. Thunder exploded above the sky, and the flickering lightning illuminated the human world. A cute bull mask, wet with raindrops, with eyes as sharp as fire, stared intently. Lu Jinsong's hair stood on end, feeling as if his blood had frozen in that instant. Bull demon? Bull demon! No, how dare he? Lu Jinsong's eyes narrowed, a murderous, ink-like ferocity rapidly spreading from his pupils. A strong resentment and killing intent burst forth from Lu Jinsong. Ridiculous and laughable emotions arose in Lu Jinsong's heart. Has he, Lu Jinsong, become so pathetic? As a grand illusory phase cultivator, this bull demon also dares to come after him alone? He's courting death. Lu Jinsong's killing intent towards the bull demon was stronger than ever. How else could he have ended up like this if not for this bull demon? Every time he tried to capture the bull demon, he was escaped using a special art of teleportation. This guy is not only sinister and malicious but also slippery as an eel. Possessing the art of teleportation, truly troublesome to the extreme. However, the bull demon never dared to confront Lu Jinsong directly because the bull demon wasn't really that strong, it could only kill forces under the fishing gang. Now, does the bull demon actually want to take advantage of his injury to pick up a cheap victory? Truly. He's courting death. Boom! Lu Jinsong roared with fury as if insulted, as erupting true chi of a Grandmaster accelerated the regeneration of new blood in his body. The originally shattered illusory divine minister by Li Qingshan's hammer now struggled to consolidate, filled with cracks, its power greatly diminished. Yet, still a divine aspect. Numerous air currents stirred, and the rain was shattered by divinity, exploding into a myriad of droplets. Dense divinity, as if awakening from a slumber, the vague air currents fused with divinity, slowly consolidating. He, Lu Jinsong, couldn't defeat Li Qingshan, and now he couldn't defeat you, bull demon? A cowardly, despicable fellow, showing his head and hiding his tail. Boom! The ground instantly exploded, numerous rocks crushed into powder under the terrifying pressure of the divine aspect, dust fiercely thrown into the air. Although Lu Jinsong was injured, he showed no fear. Bull demon! So what? Perfect, he's coming to his death. Lu Jinsong had never feared the bull demon. Compared to Li Qingshan, the bull demon excelled in cunning and slipperiness with that annoying teleporting ability. But in a real head-on clash, 10 bull demons were no match for the threat posed by one Li Qingshan. Suddenly, Lu Jinsong's eyes narrowed, only to see the burly body of the bull demon throwing something forward. In an instant, 6 black, fat crow-shaped objects fell to the ground, detonating with 6 booms. Countless fine powders made from divine crystals flew all around, enveloping Lu Jinsong. This is divine crystal powder ground to dust. Lu Jinsong's eyes narrowed, recognizing the substance flying all around, and internally he cursed, not good. He stomped heavily, terrifying blood and true qi erupted from his body, his palm ferociously aimed at the bull demon. Billowing, roaring currents of air howled, countless raindrops dispersed, intending to knock off all the dust. 8 extremes divine crystal powder, my divinity, can't move. His heart suddenly sank. Lu Jinsong felt his anger conjured, fragmented divine aspect blur and distort, the connection to the divinity in the mud pill palace abruptly severed. Instantly, his already weak illusory aspect completely collapsed. Clever bull demon! Knowing that the divine aspect's divinity was too difficult to contend with, so you found 8 extremes divine crystal, ground it to dust, and exploded it into a zone where divinity action was restricted. Planning to bring both to the same level, to clash using martial artists' blood and qi, that's smart. Using divinity, you surely couldn't surpass me, and there's no way the bull demon could condense a 6 ministries divine base like Li Qingshan. Even Li Qingshan's 6 ministries divine base actually isn't as good as the illusory aspect's divinity. Li Qingshan's strength isn't just his 6 ministries divine base, it's also his grandmaster physique, having mastered the divine sect ultimate skill 8 flood dragon's river overturning skill. That's the true basis of Li Qingshan's strength. So, what about you, bull demon? Even without my divinity, I'm still a true qi grandmaster. The bull demon shows no trace of true qi fluctuation, clearly not a grandmaster warrior, how can he compete? With a flick of a finger, a long saber is grabbed from the Kyunkan jade, swung fiercely at the bull demon. Massive true qi converged in this one slash, brilliant as the blazing sun, instantly slicing through the sky, stirring the tearing airflow to wail, then booming as it exploded. The dazzling saber light, wrapped in rolling true qi, seemed to even slice open a void in the divine crystal powder. Grandmaster's one strike, bull demon comes to death. Lu Jinsong couldn't help but raise the corners of his lips, with one slash, instantly cleaving into the body of the bull demon mask splitting into pieces, the bull demon cleaved from the shoulder into 2. So easily executed, a slash as if slicing through vegetables. Bull demon, just so much. However, Lu Jinsong soon sensed something was amiss, because there was no blood. No smell of blood. That one slash cleaved through the bull demon, yet there was no spill of any blood. Lu Jinsong's eyes narrowed, a bad feeling suddenly surged in his heart. Only to see the cleaved bull demon suddenly explode, colorful dust billowing from the shattered bull demon body. As Lu Jinsong, possessing a grandmaster's body, connected heaven and earth, every breath he took was like a whale's respiration. Chapter 186. He inhaled a breath mixed with dust, and Lu Jinsong's expression changed in horror, his face turning green. Lime? No. Lime mixed with divine crystal powder and poison. It's extremely toxic. How despicable! Lu Jinsong roared angrily, quickly sealing off his nose and mouth, and spat out the poison he had just inhaled. Lu Jinsong stomped down hard, roaring and howling. The long knife in his hand suddenly unfurled, the blade light swirling, the air currents whistling to expel and burst the air around him, preventing the poisonous divine crystal dust from approaching. But suddenly, a rank pressure that made Lu Jinsong's scalp tingle and his hair stand on end burst out from behind him. Bang! That was the sound of flesh breaking free from shackles, swelling and expanding with a boom. Lu Jinsong turned his head and saw a towering figure he would never forget. Dazzling gold burst from his eyes, it was points of golden smoke spilling from his pupils. Countless black, vigorous strands of hair grew wildly, hanging to his waist like a thick, incomparably heavy black cloak, fluttering in the wind and airflow. One after another, thick veins like giant jiao snakes writhed and squirmed under the nearly crimson skin. Vajra indestructible, perfected horizontal refinement. Prototype of divine powers, dragon elephant Vajra ascend. With each heavy step, the bull demon crushed a black temple god chess piece suddenly. The resulting black mist exploded, shooting up in an instant and rushing into the nostrils beneath the bull demon mask. His inner chi seemed to take on a layer of red, as if burning and boiling. The bull demon unleashed a move called White Tiger Turbulent Wind. After reaching the Divine Meridian realm, Li Che once again performed ascending the tower, and the strength in his flesh after expansion qualitatively transformed. He had indeed given birth to the power of the dragon elephant. Strength out of Dao fruit, 1 dragon, 1 elephant. He threw a punch, like an ancient giant elephant swinging its trunk. Amidst Lu Jinsong's trembling and stiffening veins and blood flow, it pressed down with an irresistible domineering stance. It appeared slow, but the speed was extremely fast, crushing the air currents and smashing hard onto Lu Jinsong's chest. The next instant, Lu Jinsong's Grandmaster physique felt an extremely obvious force. It was a power that seemed to be a blend of a Jiao dragon and a wild elephant, infused into the inner chi that accompanied his punch, trampling and lashing at his body. Is this inner chi? Lu Jinsong's eyes bulged in anger, his skin turned crimson, but it was too late to counter. The inner chi that had rushed into his body shattered his Grandmaster true chi, his python muscles, tiger bones, and his entire circulatory meridian system. A large cloud of exploding blood mist lingered where he stood, yet Lu Jinsong's body had already been smashed flying 30 yards away. His body heavily fell to the ground, like a 1,000-pound drop, causing the earth to cave in all at once, and a ring of dust that shot up like rehearsed fireworks. Lying on the ground, Lu Jinsong's eyes held a trace of bewilderment. How could he be so strong? How could the bull demon possibly be this strong? Inner chi tore through his true chi, muscles and bone, and the meridians of his circulatory system. Is this channel opening? This was Lu Jinsong's last thought. Because after the bull demon threw his punch, shattering his resistance, it came over like a pitch-black mountain moving horizontally through the abyss. A long spear, crimson and dazzling, burst forth with divine majesty. As it quivered and pointed in a flash, it spread like a peacock's tail. Countless spear images punctured his body. They snuffed out the last of his life. When the dust settled, on the edge of the ruins, Li Che's figure, tall and solid like a mountain with dark robust hair fluttering like a cape, his eyes shimmering with golden light, appeared extremely mystical amid the roaring dark clouds. Looking down into the deep pit at the ravaged corpse of Lu Jinsong, the bull demon mask on Li Che's face gave a deep look, his hand slowly lifted, the fingers curled inward. Above Lu Jinsong's corpse, countless wisps of divinity rose up like smoke, intertwining and converging into a silhouette. Soul capturing. Worship me. The numerous raindrops were torn apart as a figure shot towards them with the speed of a cannonball, the air vibrating and forming expanding ripples. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Several figures landed, rapidly approaching. Divinity intertwined behind them, twisting into a blurred divine minister. With a voluptuous figure too plump to see her feet, Gong Yunli frowned, her robe as a minor supervisor fluttering loudly in the heavy rain and wind. I'm late. Gong Yang Liancheng next to her also sank into a somber mood, pinching his beard. Approaching the edge of the deep pit, he saw the mangled flesh within the ruins and couldn't help but twitch at the corner of his eyes. He narrowed his eyes, his fingers seemingly grasping at nothing, and instantly a ball of airflow converged in his palm. His divine sense overflowed, sensing the materials and scents within the sphere of airflow. His expression turned strange. Arsenic, sudden green powder, carbuncle top red, lime and divine crystal powder, vicious methods, and the lingering divinity of the three-eyed fierce true lord in the air. The one who made the move is undoubtedly the bull demon, Gong Yang Liancheng analyzed. The bull demon? That bull demon dared to kill someone in the illusory phase realm. Junior supervisor Gong Yunli was incredibly surprised, covering her mouth in astonishment. The bull demon, was that fierce? A gravely wounded illusory phase, Gong Yang Liancheng solemnly added. After Li Qingshan's hammer strike, Lu Jinsong's illusory phase shattered, and his divine force could probably only exert less than 30% of its power. His Grandmaster level flesh was also hammered by Li Qingshan until he coughed up blood. In all aspects, he was far from his peak, so calling him gravely wounded was no exaggeration. But that the bull demon managed it, is quite impressive. He even dared to stage an ambush when the fishing gang's experts had cast their net wide to catch him. Impressive indeed, Gong Yunli exclaimed. A gust of wind whizzed by, and Li Qingshan arrived with his hands behind his back, wearing a cat-faced mask, hiding the ramhorn hammer in his sleeves. Looking down into the pit at Lu Jinsong's dead state. The expression beneath Li Qingshan's mask was almost shockingly twisted. Chapter 187. Does that boy have such audacity? Even dare to kill the illusory phase realm cultivator? What if, isn't he afraid that what if, he gets counter-killed by the illusory phase? That is a being in the illusory phase realm, only half a step away from the true power of the divine minister rank. After a long time, Li Qingshan let out a complex breath of turbid air. This bull demon. He could only sigh like this. Others do not know who the bull demon is, could he be ignorant about it? A year ago, that bull demon was merely a blood exchange warrior. Even before arriving at Mansion City, he had barely stepped into the realm of chi channels. Now, he actually killed an illusory phase, even if it was just finishing off a critically wounded foe. But an illusory phase, even critically wounded, also has far thicker blood than someone at the chi channels level. Impressive. Li Qingshan suddenly smiled, feeling that he might have really misjudged him. This Li Che might have potential not inferior to that of his daughter, the supreme spiritual child. Li Qingshan now felt an urge, the urge to immediately meet someone. However, tonight's events have not yet concluded, the storm has just begun. Li Qingshan could only suppress his anticipation and curiosity. Let's go, dead clean, didn't leave a thing for this old man. What's so exciting about a rotten corpse? The fishing gang is done for, let's settle accounts, the bad things they've done over the years, now they have to pay with their lives. Li Qingshan chuckled. Mansion City, there's someone who hates evil even more than this old Li. Inside the study, the candle flickered gently. Li Che slowly opened his eyes, returning the chess piece in his grasp to the chessboard Dao fruit. Taking off his hood, putting away his mask and black robe, Li Che withdrew the Linda Divine General from his thoughtful willow wood body into the pure heart Dao fruit. Li Che exhaled, sitting in the Taishi chair, gazing absent-mindedly at the flickering candlelight, the smile at the corner of his mouth no longer containable. Lu Jinsong deserved to be an illusory phase realm cultivator, giving Li Che tremendous pressure, even though he had already been hammered into a critical state by Li Qingshan. Still, he was not someone ordinary. The pressure brought on by the imposing presence of the illusory phase was immense, although not as great as the true divine minister rank, it was enough to reduce Li Che's combat power by 2 to 3/10. Therefore, Li Che immediately used the powder of the 8 extremes divine crystal he had drained. Only such powder could restrain the divinity of the illusory phase realm. Moreover, it was done in 2 phases, the first time he used a raven grenade to blast the dust and smoke, the second time using poison, lime mixed with divine crystal powder, to ensure Lu Jinsong indeed could not utilize his divinity. It was at this moment, he activated the ascending stance. After breaking through to the divine vein in his cultivation, the boost from activating the ascending stance was immense, even awaking the power of 1 dragon and 1 elephant. With full force, he shattered Lu Jinsong's bones and muscles, and then came his furious and wild onslaught with finishing blows. If Lu Jinsong wasn't injured, I would fear another intense battle. Ambushes always offer the best cost-effectiveness ratio. So people should not be easily injured, otherwise, it's too easy to be attacked. It's better to be the attacker rather than the one being attacked. Reflection, summarizing, innovating, learning from the lessons of enemies beaten to death. Li Che conducted a post-battle review. After the review, he adjusted his breathing, exhaled a breath of turbid air, calming the turbulence in his heart. Li Che's eyelids drooped as he began to deal with the loot, taking an inventory of his gains. The proceeds of an illusory phase realm cultivator were enough to make Li Che's heart skip a beat, filled with anticipation. Although he was only the deputy leader of the fishing gang, he was still a master of the illusory phase. In the eyes of Mansion City, those of the illusory phase are considered first-class experts. His wealth, no doubt, wouldn't be shabby. Moreover, masters of such a level as the illusory phase would definitely carry their treasures on themselves, which is safer than hiding them away. Therefore, Li Che was quite looking forward to the loot from this endeavor. The first thing Li Che eyed was the divine crystal. There were 2 9 luminaries divine crystals, and then 20 10 cities divine crystals. The gains are too great to declare. Li Che was still rather excited and thrilled, the feeling of sudden wealth always made him reminisce and linger. However, what made Li Che slightly regretful was that Lu Jinsong's collection did not have the 8 extremes divine crystal. Indeed, the 8 extremes divine crystal is rare and precious. Even if Lu Jinsong had them, he would have used them for his own cultivation at first opportunity. How could he let Li Che take advantage of that? After confirming the divine crystal, Li Che's excitement subsided, and he began to continue tallying his gains. A divine weapon, a 9 luminaries superior grade long saber, which was quite valuable. What surprised Li Che were the elixirs, the corpse god cult's 9th rank superior martial pills, the corpse god 1000 ghosts death chi condensing martial pills, in great quantity. 3 bottles, 9 pills each. This Lu Jinsong has completely defected to the corpse god cult and obtained great benefits, planning to cultivate a cursed corpse body. Li Che's eyes flickered as he understood why Lu Jinsong had so many death chi martial pills. As for cultivation techniques, Li Che did not gain much. Lu Jinsong's cultivated divinity was the divinity of sadness among the 7 emotions divinity, which shared the same origin as Li Che's angry Cry Town ghost. Li Che wanted to forge the 7 emotions divine base, still lacking the divinity of fear and worry divine nature. Therefore, the same origin divine methods did not mean much to him. It's a pity. As a force under the 5 great clans and 5 great sects of Mansion City, how splendid their treasury must be. I've missed the chance to see it. Li Che felt a pang of regret, beating his chest and stamping his feet a little. They didn't give me time, should have waited for me, waited until I became stronger. Sighing, Li Che put away his gains. He began to feel the transformations and improvements in himself from this battle. Before him, glimmering lights faintly twinkled past. Dragon Elephant Vajra, LV 3,20%, Pure Heart, LV 3,5%, Chess Saint, LV 2,68%. The improvement of the Dragon Elephant Vajra Deo fruit was not small, killing a heavily wounded illusory phase, amounted to a counter-kill under great pressure, and the combat experience transformed into the maturity of the Deo fruit, which was indeed substantial. But even more substantial was the elevation of the Chess Saint's Deo fruit. After all, he had siphoned off all of Lu Jinsong's divinity, directly raising the maturity of the Chess Saint's Deo fruit by 20%. If he could absorb a few more illusory phase cultivators, he could directly advance to LV3. Besides this, Li Che's divine sense circulated, feeling a slight sting in his flesh. This was due to some minor strains caused by the eruption of the power of the dragon elephant while in ascending stance. Power of the dragon elephant, 1 dragon, 1 elephant, is it because I've opened my divine vein? Li Che closed his eyes slightly, recalling and savoring the sensation of the power of the dragon elephant during ascending stance. He took out an angry Xianjiao blood martial pill, the crush of his strong stomach walls pulverizing the pill coating, the potent medicinal power diffusing throughout his body. Li Che practiced the white tiger chaotic wind fist slowly in his study. It seemed as if the roars of dragons and trumpeting of elephants echoed amidst the snapping and popping of his sinews and bones. Suddenly opening his eyes, the light of the candle flickered, his pupils shining as brilliantly as the rising sun. Power of the dragon elephant, is it a body tempering method derived during the lingering state of the Deo fruit? The dragon elephant Vajra Deo fruit derived a Dharma method. Feeling the pressure of battle, he couldn't help but form an initial impression of such a method. Li Che, with his exceptionally high martial arts talent, slowly sketched it out in his mind. Gradually, he documented an unpolished martial art derived from the Deo fruit. The Deo fruit gives birth to a method, but the method is not perfect, not complete, it needs to be gradually refined into completeness. Creating a method from the Deo fruit. Li Che's eyes opened and closed with brilliance, and his emotions surged. Thus, let's first call it Dragon Elephant True Force. Cultivating this force with blood and chi, inner strength and spirit, constantly improving the burst ceiling of Dragon Elephant power. Man cultivates power, power cultivates man. Now it's 1 dragon, 1 elephant, but can it reach 10 dragons and 10 elephants, 100 dragons and 100 elephants, 1,000 dragons and 1,000 elephants in the future? Li Che's gaze was blazing. Although Dragon Elephant True Force was not yet perfected, Li Che felt its starting point was already extraordinary, now comparable to ultimate skill level martial arts. And its potential was incredibly high. I heard that to break through to Grandmaster, one needs to master a true intent ultimate study. Isn't the ultimate study born from my Deo fruit the opportunity for my future Grandmaster path? Li Che smiled. The Dharma of a Grandmaster, he had it. The path to Grandmaster was right before his eyes. Even though it's just the beginning of creating the method and not very complete, Li Che still needed to continuously renew and improve, comparing it to regular Grandmaster methods, and if he could obtain a few ultimate study martial arts, integrating their essence into Dragon Elephant True Force, that would be excellent. That way he could ensure that the future push to become a Grandmaster with Dragon Elephant True Force wouldn't encounter any mishaps. Ultimate skill level martial arts are very rare, even if they exist, they are the treasures of various forces. The 8 flood dragons overturning the rivers old Li displayed tonight seems to be an ultimate study from the divine sect, if I were to. Li Chei's eyes shone brilliantly, unable to help himself from setting his sights on Li Qingshan. However, he quickly dismissed the thought. Forget it, there's no rush. Everything will come in time. Chapter 188. Li Chei finished sorting out his gains and didn't continue to linger in the study. Sheng Guan Qinghong had already taken his leave to return home. It was clear he sensed the aura of divine facade experts competing against each other within Mansion City and knew something big had happened. Old Chen, not knowing when, had gotten hold of a long staff and placed a wooden bench in the yard, sitting with the staff lying across his thighs, his face muscular and trembling, emanating an intimidating presence. Clearly, after sensing the abnormality in Mansion City, he wanted to protect the courtyard with his own strength. Although Old Chen guessed that Li Chei's blood qi had probably long surpassed his own, he still chose to stand guard. Finished with the carving. Old Chen's eyebrows relaxed and he let out a breath upon seeing Li Chei emerge from the study. Li Chei nodded, glanced at the night sky where lightning flashed incessantly, and his eyes slightly narrowed. It was divine symbol cultivators battling each other, their prowess astounding. Reaching up to 300 feet high in the sky, it was like immortals fighting in midair, beyond imagination. An illusory phase cultivator could fly and hover hundreds of meters in the air with ease, and stepping into the real divine symbol, achieving divine observation, they could wield the power of gods, and ascending 1,000 feet was not an issue. Divine symbol cultivators had lives spanning several hundred years, naturally accompanied by inhuman and formidable powers. After Old Chen briefly shared his findings with Li Chei, he opened a gourd and started chugging alcohol down his throat. Mansion City isn't safe either, hey? This world really doesn't have any safe places. Old Chen shook his head. Li Chei fell into silence, unable to deny the truth in Old Chen's words. Not just in this era, but for over 1,000 years, the bizarre happenings of the mysterious temple had always led to natural disasters and calamities, with evil beings running rampant. Naturally, there was no such thing as peace. Old Chen, go to sleep early, I'll keep watch tonight, Li Chei said softly. The more people, the more strength, no worries. I can endure, Old Chen said with a smile. Li Chei moved, his muscles and bones resonating in harmony, his surging blood qi erupted, and his tendons snapped like roaring jiaxie snakes. Triple blood exchange. Old Chen. Sorry to disturb. Old Chen silently picked up his liquor jug and headed towards his room. God damn it, that youngster Li Chei had actually achieved triple blood exchange. How long had he been practicing martial arts? Old Chen had witnessed Li Chei rise from obscurity with his very eyes. The shop mover who was once so careful with the wood carvings had unknowingly become a blood exchange expert. He, Chen Dabao, was no longer the strongest fighter in the house. Li Chei looked at Old Chen, who was leaving while cursing under his breath, and couldn't help but let out a soft chuckle. He sat down on the bench, his gaze piercing, looking up at the night sky. Tonight, the entirety of Golden Light Prefecture was bound to have many sleepless individuals. The divine ministers fought their battles, seemingly having an unspoken agreement not to involve the civilians. It seemed to be much ado about nothing. The night passed peacefully. The morning star rose as expected. The next day, Li Chei took leave from the Qintian Observatory, choosing not to go to work and instead stayed at home with his wife and daughter. Xixi sat on the stone steps, holding the miniature Nemo Gatling given by the bull demon, caressing it slowly, holding it dearly. I really want to set off fireworks. When will Master Niu take Xixi to set off fireworks? The little girl was obsessed. She felt it had been a long time since she last enjoyed fireworks. Her yaya was about to rust. Listening to Xixi's muttering, Li Chei was at a loss for words. The little girl hadn't kept the fact that she obtained the Nemo Gatling mechanism a secret, believing that her daddy, mommy, and Grandpa Chen were all people she could trust. Now she had to add Master Niu and half of Lu Qi. Yes, just half. The spring breeze brushed by, and tender buds sprout new leaves. All things burgeoned with evident vitality. The willow branches swayed, carrying the fresh and cleansing scent of renewal in the air. Outside Listening Flowers Lane, a carriage rolled up. In the courtyard, Li Chei, who was training little Stinky Xi in martial arts, immediately sensed the arrival through the heaven and earth chessboard and raised an eyebrow. As Liu Qi helped Nurse Momo alight from the carriage, Li Che was surprised. It was an acquaintance, and he had not expected Li Qingshan to actually manage to sneak Nurse Momo away. Little Stinky Xi would surely be thrilled and joyous to know that Nurse Momo had arrived, right? Aside from Nurse Momo, Li Qingshan, looking lazy, also jumped off the carriage and walked across the cobblestones of Listening Flowers Lane towards the courtyard. Approaching the closed courtyard gate and hearing Xi's wailing from inside due to her reluctance to train, Nurse Momo couldn't help but purse her lips into a smile. She gently knocked on the door. Xi, go open the door, Li Che said with a smile. Reluctantly, Xi trudged toward the door, dragging her short wooden stick along. After tiptoeing to unlatch the door, she saw the kindly-faced Nurse Momo standing outside. Xi's eyes instantly widened. Wow! Momo! She rubbed her meaty hands against her large eyes, doubting what she saw. Wondering if her eyes were playing tricks on her, thinking she was still dreaming. But only when she confirmed that Nurse Momo hadn't turned into a delicious roasted duck did she realize she wasn't dreaming. Wow, Momo's here, Daddy, Momo's come to see me. Xi immediately dropped her stick and threw herself into Nurse Momo's arms. At the Divine Cultivation Institute of the Su family, Nurse Momo had accompanied Xi in her training for quite some time, and they had grown quite close. Nurse Momo, who was childless throughout her life, treated these children as her own, showing them great affection. Oh dear, little Xi, let Momo see, you've gotten thin, hey? Doesn't your daddy feed you? Nurse Momo crouched down, touched Xi's cheek, her face lively with wrinkles arranging into a smile, showing a look of concern as she spoke. Chapter 189. Zhang Ye, who was practicing martial arts, also hurriedly stopped her movements and walked over, greeting him warmly. Zhang Ye was extremely happy, for she had encountered an acquaintance from Feilei City in the Mansion City, feeling as if she had met an old friend in a foreign land. Li Qingshan, with big head Liu Qi, who wore Neza braids, entered the courtyard. This girl. Li Qingshan glanced at Xi. His trip was originally to find Li Che, for he knew Li Che's identity as Bull Demon, so he had important matters to discuss with Li Che. However, he hadn't expected that this casual glance at Xi would bring an unexpected discovery. Bone tempering? Wait a minute, it seems like she's almost at bone tempering grade achievement. A 3-year-old reaching bone tempering grade achievement. Even Li Qingshan was taken aback. How could it be so fast? He knew that Xi, the supreme spiritual child, was talented, but was it to such an extent? He had estimated that Xi could undergo bone tempering by the age of 7, which was already considered exceptionally talented. Bone tempering at 7, coupled with the divine sect elixirs, hopeful of undergoing blood exchange at 9, stepping into channel opening at 12, and solidifying her divine foundation. If such an achievement were realized, there would be hope of entering the authentic divine sect. But now, Xi was almost at bone tempering grade achievement at the age of 3. This somewhat overturned Li Qingshan's strategic planning for her growth. According to Li Che's words, it seemed as if a kindergarten student had finished high school curricula. Was this girl bound for the heavens? Li Qingshan took a deep breath, his eyes revealing a seriousness, his brows even unconsciously furrowing. He pondered whether Xi might possess the potential to be possessed by a temple god or even be reborn as one. This possibility actually existed, although it was extremely difficult for a temple god to reincarnate. A bit of the true spirit had to be immortal, and a woman within 100 miles of the true spirit's location had to be giving birth to create the conditions for a temple god's reincarnation. Could Xi be such a case? It shouldn't be possible. The mysterious temple outside Feilei City is just in the 10 cities, and its temple god doesn't possess such ability. Upon thinking of this, Li Qingshan's brows relaxed, but his gaze toward Xi became even more astonished. That is to say, this girl Xi has no cheat codes, simply relying on innate talent? Li Che certainly noticed Li Qingshan's shock. In fact, Li Che was also quite astonished. Based on Li Qingshan's assessment of Xi's talent, bone tempering was only possible at the age of 7, but now Xi's growth clearly exceeded the standard. Why? Li Che felt that it was very likely because of the daily grooming of the Immaculate Heart divinity he provided for Xi and her mother Zhang Ye. Since obtaining the Dao fruit of pure heart, Li Che hadn't missed a single day grooming their bodies. Immaculate Heart divinity, pure and flawless, was harmless to the body. Li Che had thought that through the grooming with the Immaculate Heart divinity, he could help them extend their lifespans. But unexpectedly, it seemed to have altered their talents. Like Zhang Ye, she hadn't been practicing the sinew transforming posture for long, and although he intentionally gave guidance, her progress was swift. She was close to major accomplishment in sinew transforming, and bone tempering was not far off. The talent of XIXI was inherently high, and so was Zhang Ye's. It could be related to the grooming with the essence of Immaculate Heart divinity. Now, Zhang Ye, who was not born as a spirit child, even started to sense divinity. This girl has good talent. Li Qingshan pinched his beard, looking toward Li Che. The spring equinox is upon us, and the Divine Sect branch's admissions test is about to begin. This time, the test involves 13 cities under the jurisdiction of Golden Light Prefecture, including 3 supreme spiritual children, more than 20 upper-class spiritual children, and hundreds of mid-grade and lower spiritual children. All these spiritual children who have stood out from tens of thousands of children have already rushed to Golden Light Prefecture City, preparing for the Divine Sect's recruitment test on the spring equinox. Li Qingshan smiled. The 3 supreme spiritual children were all selected by me. Of course, even among the supreme spiritual children, there are levels of higher and lower, which I have determined based on the thickness of the purple chi divine pillar. Ah, except for you, old spirit child. Li Qingshan, as if thinking of something, gave Li Che an odd look, dropping a hint. Li Che's face darkened, as if he gave a hoot. Did he, Li Che, care to compare himself with 3 children? Li Qingshan, you needn't be so accurate in reading people. Li Che pursed his lips. Li Qingshan continued, I had originally placed XIXI as the second ranked, with the first being a youth from Xiang Huanshan of the noble families, named Huang Si Xiang, who has innate divine strength unrivaled and a very high divine talent. Li Che's eyes narrowed. What level is he, having a higher talent than my XIXI? Li Qingshan just felt Li Che was really brash. That Huang Si Xiang is not even the one with the best talent. Remember, these are just the supreme spiritual children of the 13 cities under the jurisdiction of Golden Light Prefecture. Li Che raised an eyebrow, and Mansion City is not included. Of course not. Mansion City has the 5 great clans, and it's much easier for clan juniors to be born as spirit children, nurtured with treasures from a young age. Supreme spiritual children are not uncommon, having one at birth. Li Che fell silent. Indeed, that made sense. The 5 great clans had numerous strong individuals, with the bloodline inheritance of the divine minister ancestor, and the nourishment with heavenly and earthly treasures even before birth, indeed having a head start. Li Qingshan and Li Che went to the study room together, where they brewed hot tea, drinking and chatting. The 5 great clans, willing to send their talented juniors to the divine sect. Li Che, suddenly thinking of something, curiously asked. The 5 great clans are different from the youth of other cities. Take a small clan like those in Feilei City, having a divine foundation is already the ceiling, and once the divine foundation passes away, it signifies the beginning of the clan's decline. Therefore, these city-based clans keep their talented youth to cultivate them as divine foundations to protect the family and maintain their status in the city. If they send them to the divine sect, there won't be any news for 20 or 30 years, and the sense of belonging to the family is not strong, so even if they become divine foundations, they might not be willing to return to their clans. Chapter 190. Li Qingshan sipped his hot tea, leisurely stating. That's why these smaller noble families hide their descendants, unwilling to send them to the divine sect or to the imperial court. However, it's different for the great clans of Mansion City. There's a divine sect and a divine sect branch for each province, and especially with the Qianyuan divine sect branch being located in Golden Light Prefecture, the families there have people, even many high-ranking ones, coming from the Mansion City clans. The Mansion City clans have a divine minister presiding, whose lifespan is 3 to 4 times that of a divine foundation, allowing one elder to support the clan for many years, naturally making the disciples willing to be sent out. Should there be a disciple capable of entering the main sect, the family's very foundation could even rise with the tide. Having finished speaking, Li Qingshan helped himself to another cup of tea, muttering, "You lad, now with ample means, how come you don't procure some decent tea leaves? It's embarrassing. Aren't you now a third-class guest official at the Kintian Observatory? Someday you should find that bosomy but brainless junior supervisor Gong Yunli, and just get a good batch of tea from Deputy Inspector Lin Zheng's tea room, right?" Li Che fell silent. He was only a third-class guest official, not a chief supervisor after all. Senior, how many Supreme Spirit children are there in Mansion City? Li Che asked with furrowed brows. Li Qingshan shook his head, I don't know, the 5 great clans keep things very close to their chest. Many even send their heirs to the 5 great sects ahead of time for cultivation. The competition for the divine sex admission assessment, which occurs once every 4 years, is intense indeed. This year in particular. Li Qingshan drank some tea, his voice suddenly growing grave. Li Che was taken aback, sipping his tea with a frown, why so? As parents, they naturally pay close attention to their child's education. XIXI's admission to the divine sect is as tense as competing for a top city primary school. There are only so many spots, and the more prodigies, the less attention their own daughter will receive, and the fewer benefits she will gain. Li Che naturally wanted to gather clear information. You brat have been enjoying quite the carefree life in the city with your bull demon identity. Haven't you found it odd? You've killed so many of the corpse god cult, aren't you puzzled as to why they dare to be so brazen? Li Qingshan gestured, sealing the study, to ensure their conversation wouldn't be overheard. Because of the mysterious temple of the 8-armed prison lotus furious third prince. Li Che took a deep breath. Right, due to the disturbance of the third prince temple, most divine phase realm experts have entered the mysterious temple to suppress the unrest. The divine sect sent even more as, after all, Golden Light Prefecture is the base of the sect branch. Of course, the disturbance of the mysterious temple is driven by human actions as well as its own reasons. The divine sect has always relied on the temple, a mysterious temple presents risks as well as opportunities. For this admission examination, one part, the divine sect will send 3 divine symbol cultivators, and they will use the divine weapon Prison Lotus Wind Fire Golden Light Wheel to tear through the strange K, sending the spirit children to 100 Zhang in front of the third prince temple. Li Qingshan's words thundered down like lightning, striking upon Li Che's ears, his pupils involuntarily shrinking. Even the normally composed Li Che couldn't help but be alarmed. What? Sending these delicate spirit children to 100 Zhang in front of the third crown prince temple? Li Che looked at Li Qingshan, his voice involuntarily rising. This damn thing! It's no different from presenting a pile of savory meat right before a dog, is it? Li Qingshan couldn't help but laugh hearing Li Che's strong reaction, but it was an understandable human sentiment. After all, that was the incredibly dangerous 4 royal mysterious temples they were talking about. Li Che's expression changed, such an assessment was too dangerous. That was virtually placing XIXI in an extremely perilous situation. If any slight unforeseeable mishap occurred, for these frail spirit children, it would be a disaster. Li Che wasn't laughing, he looked solemn as he gazed at Li Qingshan. Li Qingshan contained his smile, took a sip of tea, and slowly said, I know you're worried about XIXI's safety, but although this matter does carry certain risks, even greater is the opportunity. Sending many spirit children ahead of the mysterious temple's front, the purpose is to undergo the temple god's trial, to test the compatibility with the temple god's divinity. You know the third prince is known to the world by a child's image. If one can induce temple god resonance, not only can they cultivate the temple god's divine method, they can also receive gifts from the temple god. Such as divine secret techniques, divine martial arts, divine weapons, divine crystals, and so on. Li Qingshan spoke solemnly. Moreover, the strength of the temple god resonance is the key in deciding the children's status in the divine sect, whether they enter the inner sect, become core successors, or are placed in the outer sect. However, Li Che's brow remained furrowed, he still found it far too dangerous. After all, that was the 4 royal mysterious temples. It was like telling a group of children, whoever starts the nuclear bomb head can keep it. The main danger actually comes from the temple guardian cursed corpses. The reason the divine sect activates the Prison Lotus Wind Fire Golden Light Wheel is precisely to prevent this. It's one of the 4 royal divine weapons. Although it's only one, it can create a vast protective effect. The Golden Light Wheel carries an extremely strong temple god aura, which can keep the guardian cursed corpses at bay. Li Qingshan glanced at the still deeply concerned Li Che, suddenly realizing how seriously this lad was taking his daughter's well-being. This is both a risk and an opportunity. If one can gain the 4 Supremes Temple God's favor, you should know how far XIXI will be able to go in the future. At the very least, reaching Divine Minister is utterly simple, even Divine Origin Realm wouldn't be a big problem. Li Qingshan sat up straight, his demeanor formal. Has there ever been such an action before? Li Che paused momentarily before asking. Yes, Or rather, not only the Ganyuan divine sect but every sect that relies on a mysterious temple will have such a process. Ganyuan divine sect won't be an exception. Have you not seen Liu Qi? He was one of the top 3 spirit children with the highest temple god compatibility during the last action. Moreover, this time as the strange K of the 4 royal temples opens, the Ganyuan Orthodox sect of Lingnan Circuit will also send a cultivator to preside over it. Chapter 191. After all, this matter involves the 4 royal mysterious temples, and the Ganyuan Orthodox sect won't ignore it, so this is also an opportunity that the Ganyuan Orthodox sect values. Li Qingshan squinted his eyes, his fingers gently tapping on the table. You love your daughter dearly, and being concerned about her is not wrong, but the child must eventually venture out. This is an opportunity for her, and you can't let your worries about safety stop her from seizing it. She needs this experience. Upon hearing this, Li Che finally relaxed his furrowed brow. This was not an isolated incident. Many divine sects, including branches of the Qianyuan divine sect, had taken action before. Since there were precedents, that was somewhat reassuring. Indeed, Li Che couldn't keep XIXI confined to their home all the time. In this world, powerful divine cultivation exists. Everyone is competing, vying for transcendence. Li Che needed to be responsible for his daughter's growth. Will cultivators from the divine sect Ganyuan Orthodox also come to preside? If XIXI performs well, is there a chance she could be spotted and admitted into the Ganyuan Orthodox? Li Che asked. Li Qingshan shook his head. There is a possibility, but entering the Ganyuan Orthodox has its own procedures. If XIXI can establish her divine foundation before the age of 12, she will have a chance to enter the Ganyuan Orthodox. But this competition is too fierce. Across the entire Lingnan circuit, how many spirit children toil for years, all striving for entry into the Orthodox sect. Because only by entering the Ganyuan Orthodox can one have the chance to cultivate the 3 pure laws. The 3 pure laws. Li Che's body shuddered, and he immediately understood the difficulty of competing with the Ganyuan Orthodox. That level of competition was comparable to high school students from a small county in his previous life striving to enter one of the top 2 universities in the country. Li Che felt a dryness in his mouth. He was beginning to feel the educational anxiety of a parent. As long as it's safe. Li Che sighed. But his mind was already becoming active. If XIXI enters the 4 royal mysterious temples, should he follow her? Perhaps this would be a good opportunity. To leave offspring in the mysterious temple, to set an anchorage for the Flying Thunder Chess Saint. However, Li Qingshan was unaware of the subtle thoughts in Li Che's mind. He laughed. There will definitely be safeguards. Spirit children are the future of the divine sect branches, how could they be neglected? Safety is always given top priority, but there are no absolutes in anything. Li Qingshan's expression grew solemn. You also know, as the spirit children are the future of the branch sects, the branches cherish them immensely. But so does the corpse god cult, and the divine sect isn't guarding against just the temple gods, but also groups with ill intentions like the corpse god cult. The corpse god cult. Li Che's eyes suddenly turned icy. The threat posed by the corpse god cult, an emerging power from Jizhu, now nearly destabilizes an entire province of the dying dynasty and occupies 3 states. The threat is enormous, and even the divine sect dares not underestimate it. Their methods are malicious. Spirit children who perform excellently in the temple god resonance can even become targets for their abduction, and if they cannot abduct them, they choose to destroy them. Li Qingshan exhaled, as the corpse god cult also needed geniuses to build up their reserve forces. One of the ways they acquire geniuses is by abduction. Although trickery is a method well employed by the corpse god cult, spirit children raised from an early age naturally have more loyalty. Li Che squinted his eyes, a hint of murderous intent flickering within. Suddenly, he looked at Li Qingshan, Senior, suddenly shifting the topic to the corpse god cult, bringing up hatred. There must be a purpose, right? Li Qingshan chuckled, straightening up and rubbing his fingers together, his eyes squinting with a gleam, as the following words were the main reason he had sought out Li Che today. To ensure XIXI can safely participate in the temple god resonance. Bull Demon, there's a significantly lucrative collaboration. I wonder if you are interested. Chapter 192. A partnership of great wealth? Li Che raised an eyebrow and glanced at Li Qingshan. He smelled an unusual significance to this. A partnership of great wealth would likely be to his taste, for the title had changed, from Li Che, the kid to Bull Demon, indicating that the partnership of great wealth Li Qingshan spoke of was meant for the identity of the bull demon, not Li Che himself. Li Che could roughly guess which aspect Li Qingshan wanted to cooperate with the bull demon on. He took a sip of hot tea, chewing on the emerald green tea leaves that entered his mouth, the bitter taste spreading and overflowing on the tip of his tongue. Li Che smiled and said, "Elder, speak straightforwardly, what great wealth are we talking about? I'm very interested." Wealth, who wouldn't be interested? The current Li Che was in desperate need of resources. If he could get a few more 8 extremes divine crystals and 9 luminaries martial pills, not to mention the wealth of martial arts secrets, it would be more than wonderful. Li Qingshan also squinted at Li Che. Honestly, the shock Li Che brought him was no less than that of Xixi's bone tempering at the age of 3. After all, Li Che had only been cultivating for 3 years so far, and the time he spent truly stepping onto the martial path and beginning essence cultivation was almost identical to the time it took for Xixi to achieve bone tempering great achievement. A 22-year-old spirit child who went from a novice in the martial path, through skin refinement, to being capable of killing a grandmaster within 3 years. How terrifying was that? This talent, translated into the real value of a spirit child, meant that a spirit child could kill a grandmaster at the age of 3. Compared with that, Li Che's daughter Xixi didn't seem so monstrous after all. Of course, Li Qingshan knew this wasn't a fair comparison. But what was undeniable was the terrifying talent of father and daughter, Li Che and Li Nuangzai. Li Qingshan pondered deeply but couldn't fathom the reason, as it seemed illogical. It made sense for Xixi, as a monstrous father's daughter could be monstrous too. But why was Li Che himself so monstrously talented? Was it a bloodline inheritance? A late bloomer? Before, Li Che was nothing but a country boy. He worked as a laborer in a wood-carving shop, earning a hard-knock life with a daily wage of dozens of Dajingtong cast copper coins. How could he achieve a reversal of fortune overnight? Could it be that there truly is an epiphany in this world that enables one to soar to the heavens like a kunpeng spreading its wings? It could only be said that perhaps Li Che had received the inheritance of a great master. Li Qingshan was not interested in these matters. Each person had their fortune, and he would not covet what was others. Li Qingshan had his own opportunities as well. Li Qingshan retracted his strange gaze and took a deep breath. "Bull demon. I am aware of your actions since you arrived in the Mansion City, and I can only say, well killed. The forces in Mansion City are a mixed bag, each with its own agenda. They needed a good killing, it terrifies them and prevents them from always getting cocky and causing trouble." Li Qingshan sipped his tea and sneered. "Your killing of the Xiaoyu gang and its affiliate forces, they are all connected to the corpse god cult. No need to discuss what the Xiaoyu gang is composed of. Jing Yudao has placed his treasures on the corpse god cult, planning to be the pioneer for the corpse god cult to enter Golden Light Prefecture, hoping to gain great benefits in the future, and even obtain the method to refine oneself into a cursed copper corpse, to elevate his body to the level of cursed copper corpse." Li Che's heart trembled slightly. Cursed copper corpse? He had activated Ascending Stance, relying on temple god chess pieces to erupt with the power to kill a cursed iron corpse, but the enemy's toughness was already beyond his imagination. How terrifying would a cursed copper corpse be? Li Qingshan narrowed his eyes. Cursed copper corpse is not ordinary. Even a low-grade cursed iron corpse possesses the strength of a grandmaster, and if it's of the highest quality, it can even rival a grandmaster at perfection, and be even more difficult to deal with because they have unparalleled bodies, neither dying nor feeling pain, like the most perfect warriors. And once a cursed copper corpse is achieved, it can be comparable to a great grandmaster. Great grandmaster. Li Che took a deep breath. In the Qi and Blood martial path, after channel opening comes true Qi grandmaster, and by condensing the martial arts true intent and blending it into oneself, the perfect fusion of true intent and Qi and Blood forms an even more powerful true Qi for killing. And a great grandmaster, in turn, condenses divine gang, which is even more frightening, possessing the power to move mountains and split rivers with every action. Right, master of divine gang. These are the martial arts experts who have enlightened their own martial path and pondered the true intent of heaven and earth. Each great martial arts master, even without the aid of divinity, can easily withstand the divine majesty from a great cultivator of divine element and escape with their lives effortlessly. Any great grandmaster, even without cultivating divinity, can dominate a region, become a magnate, have no fear of a divine minister, and even easily defeat the other party. Ordinarily, equating martial arts to divine cultivation, a pure master of divine gang is roughly equivalent to a top-level divine symbol cultivator. As for comparing with a divine element true person, it would be significantly weaker. After all, to become a divine element true person, the body must also condense divine gang, reaching the great master realm. Without becoming a great grand master, one cannot become a true person. Li Qingshan said softly, his eyes flickering with both yearning and pursuit. Unless one attains the unity of heaven and man among the great grand masters, only then can one rely purely on martial arts to battle with a divine element true person. Pure chi and blood martial path, clashing with a divine element true person. Such a realm, how sweeping and inspiring, inevitably making one's heart race with excitement. Of course, in today's age, pure great martial arts masters are extremely rare, and most will cultivate some form of divinity. After all, using divinity to comprehend the heavens makes it much easier. Li Qingshan started to laugh, his eyes carrying a hint of melancholy. Purely reaching the realm of a great grand master through one's own enlightenment is few and far between. He snapped back to the present, looked at Li Che, and returned to the main topic. Chapter 193. You kill the Sheyu gang, mostly targeting those under its command who have been granted the corpse curse mark. Can you see who has been granted the corpse curse mark? Li Qingshan's eyes gleamed fiercely as he looked at Li Che, or perhaps one should say, the bull demon. Li Che furrowed his brow, then his expression relaxed, and he nodded. I can sense it, thus I strike down. The corpse god cult is targeting my daughter, all who bear the seal are not innocent, kill without mercy. Li Che's words carried a chilling murderous intent. Li Qingshan burst into laughter as he stroked his beard. Very good. Being able to sense the corpse curse mark, it seems you have a natural sensitivity to corpse chi. Normally, when a cultivator is granted the corpse curse mark, it seeps into the Nuan palace and gets covered by divinity. You can't see through it, as they look normal. Your ability to see through it is an advantage, it's the basis of our prosperous collaboration. Li Qingshan narrowed his eyes, a sharp gleam erupting from within. He didn't care how Li Che could sense it, he just needed Li Che to confirm that whenever the bull demon targeted cultivators of the fishing gang who had been marked, it wasn't a guesswork, he indeed had the ability to identify the corpse curse mark, and that was enough. Senior, how would you like to collaborate? Li Che narrowed his eyes. It's not just the fishing gang that secretly collaborates with the corpse god cult, refining corpses and granting marks, the other two gangs, the 5 great clans, the 5 great sects, they all might possibly harbor swine who have thrown in their lots with the corpse god cult. This mansion city, full of filth and rampant with corpse chi, it's nauseating. Point out the filth for me, and we shall clean it up. Li Che instantly understood. This meant determining who had been granted the corpse curse mark and then, striking down the targets. The idea is quite good, but it sounds difficult, doesn't it? Take the fishing gang, for example, that gang leader Jing Wuodao, he's been granted the corpse curse mark, a true divine symbol cultivator. If you and I go to clean up, it might end up with us being cleaned up. Li Che spoke outright. Alone, he could use the thunder chess piece for instantaneous movement and escape, even a divine symbol cultivator might not necessarily catch him. But, once accomplices were involved. If he ran, the accomplices might not necessarily be able to escape. Though Li Qingshan was strong, facing a true divine symbol could be daunting. You youngster, you think it's just the two of us acting? Think we don't have accomplices, partners. If we're cleaning, naturally we start from the illusory phase realm. Li Qingshan's eyes twinkled with a defiant look, besides, give me another year, divine symbol. So what? Nurse Momo had abandoned Li Qingshan to stay in Li Che's house, wanting to accompany XIXI. How grievous Li Qingshan was, but there was nothing he could do. He had just returned to Mansion City and there was too much happening, he could only proceed as his old lover wished. Li Che had no objections to Nurse Momo staying at his house. At the end of the day, it was merely a matter of an extra pair of chopsticks. Furthermore, with Nurse Momo, a strict instructor from the Divine Cultivation Institute there, XIXI's martial training could be more disciplined, perfectly timing with the sex examination period to cram desperately. Unlike old Chen, who would call her a little stinky XI every day, causing XIXI to now have a strong rebellious streak. She didn't listen to old Chen at all, the old and the young were constantly bickering, shouting little stinky XI and old stinky Chen non-stop. In the days that followed, everything returned to normal. Li Che resumed his regular life. During the day, he would serve at the Kintian Observatory, then practice martial arts, nurturing nature, wood carving, and cultivate secretly in his small workshop courtyard after his duty. The fishing gang was annihilated. The large gang, following the escape of the gang leader Jing Wuodao, completely declined. The power of the fishing gang was divided and devoured cleanly by the various powers within Mansion City. Although the fishing gang still existed nominally, it had actually been completely eradicated. Perhaps due to the deterrence from the destruction of the fishing gang, or perhaps the lingering prestige of the Battle of the Divine Symbols along with Li Qingshan's return and his renowned reputation. The entire Mansion City became much more settled. Outside Listening Flowers Lane, no power was keeping watch anymore. For a time, looking at the empty heaven and earth chessboard, Li Che was somewhat unaccustomed. But, he still habitually set up the heaven and earth chessboard to ensure the surroundings were secure. Once any anomaly was detected, it would provide feedback. Stability was the first principle for Li Che to secure his life in this world. The spring breeze caressed the willows, bringing warmth. 10 days silently passed by. In the workshop courtyard, the heaven and earth chessboard enveloped the area, isolating various essences. Li Che sat cross-legged in the center of the courtyard, surrounded by wood shavings from his wood carvings, which had been swept by an invisible wind into the corner of the yard. His dark, robust hair fluttered ceaselessly, and a faint light burst forth from the nuan in his brow. The milky white immaculate heart divinity, like a vast net, split the many divinities apart. Hudu hudu. It was as though countless ghostly wails echoed endlessly, dense ghostly figures interwoven and arranged, crying incessantly, as if the gates of hell had flung open and wronged souls from hell were returning. Boom! Accompanied by a massive wave of invisible turbulence, a concentric ripple spread out. Striking against the barrier set by the heaven and earth chessboard, it exploded like splashing waves. Suddenly, a ghastly aura rose behind Li Che, accompanied by the sound of angry cry, the Divine Foundation millstone. The Divine Foundation burst forth with divine light in bursts, lifting a divinity that tingled the nose. Opening his eyes, Li Che exhaled a breath of turbid air, his gaze as calm as an ancient well. The angry cry town ghost Divine Foundation, also achieved. Li Che's lips curled into a smile. The Immaculate Heart divinity surged out and merged into the angry cry town ghost Divine Foundation. The brow nuan opened. In an instant, 2 more robust Divine Foundation chi mechanisms rose. Chapter 194. It was the Suansi Lu Sword Divine Foundation and the heart-shocking and sturdy Divine Foundation. It's done, all done. After casting the Divine Foundation with the pure heart divinity, casting other divinities for the Divine Foundation doesn't take too much effort, as the divine power of the pure heart Divine Foundation can basically smooth out the conflicts and repulsion forces brought by other Divine Foundations. Li Che exhaled, a glimmer of light at his brow. He had constructed 4 wheels of the 7 emotions Divine Foundation. Anger, sorrow, thought, and shock. Plus the all-curing pure heart Divine Foundation. In Li Che's new and inner scenery now, there were 5 wheels of Divine Foundations. Boom! The immense divinity, like surging tides, battered against the walls of the inner scenery space, causing it to be continuously expanded. Each of the Divine Foundations floating within released divine shocks, expanding the space to allow the wheels of the Divine Foundation more room to accommodate. Now Li Che's new and inner scenery space was nearly 10 times, or even more, that of what ordinary cultivators could expand with 1 wheel of Divine Foundation. This brought about Li Che's tremendous divine sense. Extremely tremendous. What was most important, Li Che could feel a unique change. His divine majesty was exceptionally strong and terrifying. Squinting, his gaze seemed to flicker with 5 colored lights, his fingers opening and then pressing down fiercely. Boom! He unleashed enormous divine majesty, and the air in the entire courtyard seemed to have been instantaneously evacuated, forming an immense vacuum. Whew! Now, disregarding the all-curing pure heart Divine Foundation, the Divine Majesty alone from the 4 wheels of the 7 emotions Divine Foundation would probably render Divine Base Realm cultivators immobile, and sweat would pour down the backs of those in the post-Divine Foundation realm. Roughly, it should be enough to contend with the Divine Majesty of an illusory phase cultivator. Li Che's eyes shimmered, as if light was fading in and out. This is only with 4 wheels of the Divine Foundation. If I could construct a complete 7 emotions Divine Foundation, maybe, within the Divine Base Realm, I could stand up against real Divine Symbol cultivators. Li Che looked upwards, as the nuan at his brow instantly retracted its divine light. In an instant, the four wheels of divine foundation returned to the inner scene of the energy center, the immaculate heart Taoist fruit throbbed, and the divine aura quietly vanished without a trace. Joy, worry, and fear, these three divinities have yet to be cast into the divine foundation. Now, I can get started on this. Li Che still lacked divine foundation techniques for the worry divine nature and the divinity of fear, but it wasn't a big problem. With his current identity, he could just go to Li Qingshan to get them. It was a bit difficult to obtain higher ranked ones though. Li Che also had to consider changing his divine foundation slowly. But after understanding more about changing divine foundations, he realized it was much easier than casting them, mainly just securing the divine foundation techniques. In the span of 10 days, Li Che cultivated relentlessly, but of course, constructing 3 wheels of divine foundation wasn't his only gain. In martial arts, his breakthroughs were tremendous. He took out an elixir shrouded in death chi and swallowed it. Gulp. The elixir landed in his stomach with a muffled sound. The stomach walls, under the control of divine sense, started to move, the powerful force crushed the pill coating, and the vast medicinal properties surged out instantly. Li Che stood up, his blood and energy erupting as if dragons and elephants were roaring together. His self-created Zhu Shui Dragon Elephant True Force was now at the level of minor accomplishment. His blood and energy thundered and roared, accompanied by the power of the Dragon Elephant. Even without activating Ascending the Tower, Li Che could still unleash the powerful force of a dragon and an elephant, akin to the strength of a deity. A step taken, countless streams of blood and energy interwove behind him, as if becoming a hawk eagle with its wings spread, shooting straight up into the sky violently. As he stepped through the air, countless after-images of Li Che flashed wildly in the courtyard. Finally, he landed lightly, his toes touching the blue bricks, raising a ring of expanding dust. Cloud Harrier treading on clouds, at the level of Transformation Realm. This divine martial arts movement technique was finally cultivated by Li Che to the level of the Transformation Realm, creating the atmosphere of the Transformation Realm. It merged into the divine vein's blood and energy, causing yet another transformation in his divine vein. Now, the martial arts that Li Che had mastered at the Transformation Realm were the White Tiger Chaotic Wind Fist, the 8 consecutive bone-breaking spears, and Cloud Harrier treading on clouds. 3 forms, realizing the 3 transformations of the divine vein. He already possessed the credentials to challenge the Grandmaster realm. However, Li Che had ambition. After all, with the Dao fruit-like Dragon Elephant Vajra that enhanced the martial arts talent, he would not settle for the lowest level of divine vein to break through to Grandmaster. He intended to complete the divine vein 9 transformations, then strike towards the Grandmaster realm. With the Maitreya gold armor, 100 Ghosts thunderstorm arrows, Python dragon cannon, Corpse god death smoke finger, Furious triple blade knife, and 1000 armed divine sculpture, the remaining 6 martial arts that Li Che had, except for the Zhu Shui level 1000 armed divine sculpture which still remained at the major accomplishment level, the rest had all reached the master level. Especially that Corpse god death smoke finger, with a large amount of 9th rank superior Corpse god 1000 Ghosts death chi condensing martial pill support, coupled with Li Che's extraordinary martial path talent. In just 10 days, he cultivated it to the master level. Although the death chi martial pills were depleted, and reaching the level of Transformation Realm in a short time was somewhat difficult, for Li Che, this progress was already very gratifying. After the martial pill was crushed, the surging death chi assaulted Li Che's skin. Li Che operated Dragon Elephant True Force to suppress the erosion of death chi, using it to temper his body, with extraordinary effects. Even better than the usual Flood Dragon Blood martial pills. The Corpse God cult, as the creators of Corpse Curse technique, truly have profound research on the physical body. This death chi elixir, for those who can suppress the death chi while practicing martial arts, it's simply superb. Pity that all the death chi condensing martial pills I got from the Corpse God Envoy and Lu Jinsong are now used up. I need to find a way to restock. Li Che reigned in his blood and energy, and the lingering after-images left by Cloud Harrier treading on clouds slowly disappeared. Senior Qing Shan. You promised great riches, why haven't you started taking action? If you don't act soon, I just might not be able to resist striking out on my own. February 21st, the Spring Equinox. Chapter 195. The Divine Sect was founded. The fine rain was hazy, with mysterious birds arriving, as day and night equaled in length. As the Spring Equinox arrived, it was time to rise and follow the rich waters closely. A spring rain brought warmth, yet it could be accompanied by a late chill, and the drizzling rain carried a hint of coldness. Today was a grand event for the entire Golden Light Prefecture city. On the spacious, cobblestoned main road of the city, wide enough for 10 carriages to travel side by side, there was now a traffic jam. The streets were bustling with carriages and teeming with people. Paper umbrellas bloomed like spring flowers along the long street. From the wide official road of Golden Light Prefecture City to the Fenzong Mountain Gate of the Qianyuan Divine Sect, a stretch of more than a dozen miles, was engulfed in congestion. Thick crowds came from all 13 cities of Golden Light Prefecture, all gathering outside the Divine Sect Mountain Gate today. The clamor seemed almost to tear the skies apart. Within each swaying carriage were parents full of hope and anxiety, yearning for their children to succeed, and children filled with excitement and nervousness. Whether one could pass the Divine Sect branch's entrance examination and enter the sect for cultivation had too great an impact on one's future. Besides the selected spirit children, there were also dissatisfied parents who brought their children to participate in the assessment and selection, as well as some children who, though not identified as having the talent of spirit children, possessed a talent for the martial path and were determined to take a shot. People of all shapes and colors mingled and interwove into a human tide, jam-packed on the official road. Listening Flowers Lane. The small courtyard. Zhangya was in a rush as she changed Xixi, who was dozing off, into the clothes she had just bought and did Xixi's hair in pretty braids. In the courtyard, old Chen paced back and forth with a pipe in hand, his hands behind his back clenched into fists, extremely tense. The elder uncle's family had also arrived. Cousin Lu Chunming gripped Li Chensu's hand, her face full of anxiety, too. The corpse curse mark on cousin Li Zhengrun had long been shattered by Li Che using the 8 Extremes corpse curse seal. Now revitalized, and with Li Che's help, he found a decent job, his essence, qi and spirit were restored, in a very good state. Nurse Momo also paced anxiously, her nerves no less on edge than Zhang Yu's. Li Che, on the other hand, sat in a chair, smiling as he watched. Let Cheng Zhou be nervous, my Xixi isn't nervous. Li Che said with relish. After all, Xixi was a supreme spiritual child who was basically assured entry into the divine sect, the only question was whether it would be into the divine sect branch's inner sect or as a true successor. So, today's assessment was largely just a formality, although Li Qingshan had mentioned there would be exams and contests. But Li Che was very confident in the education he provided to Xixi. This girl would be incredibly strong if it came to actual combat. If she discarded martial ethics a bit and whipped out her mini Nemo Gatling, it would be like punching the elders of the South Mountain Hospice or kicking the North Sea Kindergarten. She was the brightest star of this sect assessment. However, Li Che had heard from Li Qingshan that this time's sect assessment would not be easy for Xixi. After all, Xixi was among the youngest candidates in this assessment. The prodigies cultivated secretly by the 5 great clans and the 5 major sects were up to 8 years old, possibly even stepping into the blood exchange phase. So Li Che couldn't guarantee that Xixi would win for sure, since she was indeed quite young. But Li Qingshan said that with Xixi's 3-year bone-tempering major accomplishment, such talent, would at least ensure entry into the inner sect. As for the status of a true successor, the chances were more than 70%. The status of a true successor. Being under Li Qingshan's tutelage was not considered a true successor. Every true successor was a direct disciple of a divine symbol cultivator, the core of the sect, receiving slanted resource cultivation. Li Che looked at Xixi, who had her hair neatly done and strutted out of the house with swagger, his eyes filled with warmth. The Emperor Xixi he raised, was finally beginning to forge her domain. As he was about to lift Xixi into the carriage, Li Che secretly admonished Xixi not to use the mini Nemo Gatling unless absolutely necessary, as it would be bullying other children, but it was okay against older children. She could even pair it with the wood raven for impact. Between the two choices of Xixi getting injured in the contest or making someone else's child get injured. As a parent, Li Che naturally chose the latter without hesitation. Patting Xixi's head gently, Li Che's eyes were tender. Safety first, the assessment second, whether or not to compete doesn't matter. Don't get hurt, just be safe and sound. Chapter 196, Daughter's First Stage Performance, 3-year-old spirit child guards the arena. February 21st. Spring Equinox, Light Rain. The road from Golden Light Prefecture to Qianyuan Divine Sect's Fenzong Mountain Gate was completely congested. The carriages in the narrow sections were overtaking each other, with none yielding to another. Inside the carriage, Li Che, Zhang Ye, Nurse Momo, and Xixi were sitting in one carriage. Xixi was lively and restless, feeling very excited. She did not feel that attending the divine sex examination was something to be nervous about. It felt like going out for a spring outing, filled with curiosity and a desire to explore new things. She looked through the carriage window at the dense queue of carriages outside and the many people walking hurriedly with their children, continuously exclaiming in amazement. "Daddy, there are so many people." This was the first time Xixi had seen so many people and she was very surprised, realizing there could be so many people in the world. Indeed, the number of people attending the examination this year has increased a lot compared to previous ones, Nurse Momo said affectionately as she looked at Xixi, her eyes filled with some reluctance. After today, Xixi would be entering the divine sect and would have to go up to the Hai Ching peak of the divine sect, meaning the days she could come home would be few. However, Nurse Momo could take comfort in knowing that Li Qingshan would take her to visit Xixi, which somewhat scattered her melancholy. Li Qingshan said that this year's examination seems to be related to the Four Royal Mysterious Temple in the river heart of Nine Dragons River outside the prefecture. Dealing with the mysterious temple involves risks, yet it also holds great opportunities, Nurse Momo explained. Zhang Ye's eyes revealed a worried look. Related to that Four Royal Mysterious Temple? Isn't that too dangerous? But Xixi has no choice but to go to the divine sect. Zhang Ye glanced at Li Che with an entreating look as if seeking rescue. Don't worry, since the divine sect dares to set a trial at the Four Royal Mysterious Temple to test these children, they naturally have some measures in place, Li Che said reassuringly. Li Qingshan mentioned that the divine sect branch actually used the prison lotus wind fire golden light wheel, certainly a Four Royal divine weapon. It was clear they took it very seriously, and since they dared to open it, they obviously had confidence, and this was not their first time doing such a thing. Since Li Che said it was okay, Zhang Ye believed him. She just blindly trusted Li Che. This carriage is completely stuck, we can't move forward much at all, we might as well walk, Li Che suggested, glancing at the sky. If they were stuck on the road and missed the designated hour, that would really be bad. Li Che was not the only one with this thought, others in the carriages also got out, either leading or carrying, heading towards the divine sect mountain gate. Zhang Ye and Nurse Momo raised no objections, they were both cultivators, and a little walking was nothing to them. Li Che picked up Xixi, who opened a small oil paper umbrella, got directly out of the carriage, and started walking, basking in the spring wind and rain as if he were on a spring outing. After getting out of the carriage and walking, they moved even faster. Soon, they passed through the bustling area of Golden Light Prefecture City and arrived before the gate of Divine Sect Mountain. The grass stretched on both sides, lush green, swaying with the spring breeze, tinged with translucent raindrops. A conspicuous green peak rose from the ground, reaching into the sky. From afar, behind the majestic city gates, this mountain peak could be seen, with the entire Golden Light Prefecture City built around it. But upon drawing closer, one could see that there was an extremely vast area around the mountain. Looking up at the green peak, towering and majestic, filled with lush vegetation, one could see mist enveloping the mid-mountain, amidst the rain. By the bank of Nine Dragons River, a mountain peak rose abruptly from the ground, known as Golden Light Peak, the main peak where Lingnan Road Jianyuan Divine Sex Branch in Yun Province resides. Around Golden Light Peak, there are many smaller peaks, which, although not as conspicuous, were completely overshadowed by Golden Light Peak. Those peaks are where the illusory phase cultivators of the Divine Sect branch could establish their cave dwellings. People like Li Qingshan, because of possessing illusory phase combat power, earned the privilege to establish a cave residence. His cave dwelling's mountain was named Zhanglei Peak. Passing through a stretch of lush green grassland, they saw at the foot of Golden Light Peak, a massive white jade archway. In front of the archway, a vast expanse of green grass was used to construct a large and exquisite wooden platform. Around the wooden platform were spaces occupied by the top powers from Golden Light Prefecture City. The five great clans, Qin, Gong, Hai, Shangguan, and Gongyang family, all took it very seriously. Not only did the family heads come, but even the diviner ancestors from the families appeared in person. For example, Qin Dikan, the diviner ancestor of the Qin family, appeared right in the midst of the Qin family's area, seated in a distinguished position. To the side, were Qin Kang, the patriarch of the Qin family, and relatives of the late Qin Yuking like Qin Hunan, Qin Liziao, and other second-generation members. The five great sects also sent representatives. Gold Split Gate, Bamboo Forest Academy, Watching Tide Pavilion, and Sand Scorpion Forest's experts were all present, though not deploying their sect's diviner ancestors like the 5 great clans, they still had illusory phase experts in attendance. Black Jiao Gang, Beggar's Sect, which had now become 2 gangs, also sent experts, and the leaders of Black Jiao Gang and Beggar's Sect appeared as well. Although the aura of the diviner ancestors was somewhat restrained, the subtle emanations and impacts still formed a terrifying atmosphere, suffocating those around. Li Che, carrying XIXI, arrived amidst the crowd below the wooden platform, which was already densely packed with people. Suddenly, Liu Qi popped his head out from the crowd. He was wearing the clothes of an intersect disciple of the divine sect today, the green outfit quite conspicuous, making many unconsciously make way for him. Uncle Li, Aunt Zhang, and XIXI, over here, come this way. Liu Qi waved excitedly. Chapter 197. Li Che knew he was being given special treatment, but didn't care about the gazes of those around him. Wearing a gentle smile, he subtly used his unmanifest energy to clear a path through the crowd. Accompanied by his wife and daughter, Nurse Momo, his uncle's family, and old Chen, they followed Liu Qi. Just as they started to follow Liu Qi, Shang Guanqinghong began to bounce around in the distance, irritated. Li, I'm over here, there's a good spot here too. Lu He and Hai Chuanying couldn't help but laugh. Didn't expect Brother Li to know people inside the divine sect too, they said. That's Liu Qi, the disciple of Li Qingshan, one of the 3 who resonated with the temple god last year, reaching an astonishing resonance of 65%. He's the only one among them still persisting in practicing the wrathful third prince divine method, nurturing the divinity of the third prince, aiming to forge the divine foundation of the 6 bureaus furious third prince, just like his teacher, they continued. Hai Chuanying, from the high family of the 5 great clans, had extensive knowledge and explained. Brother Li's daughter, she's one of the 3 supreme spirit children of the 13 cities under Mansion City's jurisdiction, right? Lu He recalled. Correct, Li Nuangzai, a supreme spirit child, but her chances for the true succession are slim. She'll probably have to enter the inner sect first and then gradually strive for the true succession. She really is too young. All the spirit children hidden within the 5 great clans and many medium and small-sized families in Mansion City have been brought out. I've heard there are over 15 supreme spirit children this year, yet the divine sect's true inheritance will only take in 5, said Hai Chuanying nonchalantly. Lu He sighed and shook his head. It's not easy. After such troubles in Feilei City, Brother Li can still bring his daughter, a supreme spirit child, to Mansion City. He's had to endure so much suffering. It would be decent to even make it into the divine sect's inner sect, Lu He added. Hearing this, Shang Guanqinghong immediately became displeased and clenched her fists. My sister XIXI will definitely become a true successor. You all have no idea how strong XIXI is. Hai Chuanying scoffed, a 3-year-old child, who barely knows how to urinate clearly, how impressive could she be? My family's supreme spirit child, Hai Chao Sheng, was reluctantly offered by our distinguished ancestor. If it weren't for the resonance with the temple god at the third prince's mysterious temple, our ancestor would have continued to keep him hidden and personally tutored him, Hai Chuanying declared. Shang Guanqinghong glanced at Hai Chuanying, oblivious to the significance of achieving the major accomplishment of bone tempering at just 3 years old. She didn't make a fuss about it in advance, considering them petty and ignorant. Just wait until Emperor XIXI gives them a fright. At the Divine Sect Mountain Gate Stone Archway, on the blue stone steps below, chairs were placed, occupied by figures dressed in fluttering robes, radiating elegance and merging with the spring breeze. Drizzling rain poured down, yet before it could touch their bodies, it was twisted away by an invisible force. This year is really bustling, so many have come. It seems as if all the spirit children with talent from Golden Light Prefecture have been brought here, right? Said an old man sitting in the seat of honor, with white hair and beard, gently stroking it while watching the packed crowd warmly. This person was none other than Nan Luo, the sect master of Qianyuan Divine Sect's Yunzhou sub-sect, whose cultivation was profound and immeasurable. Of course, it has to be lively. After all, this time the third prince temple is initiating the temple god resonance. It's feared that it will be another 20 years before it opens again. Missing this chance means that for the next 20 years, it will be difficult to attain the legacy of the third prince temple god, said Li Qingshan, sprawled lazily in his chair. Li Qingshan, you're indeed ruthless. Barely back in Mansion City and you're already wielding your hammer, forcing out an 8 Extremes Corpse God envoy from the Corpse God cult, almost causing a major disaster," said a slender old man dressed as a scholar from not far away, immediately scolding him after Li Qingshan finished speaking. Li Qingshan was immediately discontent. "What do you mean causing a major disaster? Are you not clear on what sort of rabble the corpse god envoys are? You allow them to linger in Mansion City, luring, deceiving, and corrupting all sides. That is the real disaster. Are you not aware of the situation in Jizhu? It's already become infested by the corpse god cult. The common people have become tools for the corpse god cult to refine death chi, dying in droves. Do you want Golden Light Prefecture to fall into the same state?" The scholarly old man's face turned red with anger. "Of course the corpse god cult must be stopped, but we need to have a strategy. Your way of openly hunting down the corpse god envoy in the city, while the chief supervisor, sect master, and the rest of us divine ministers can't return from strange Quebec. If they chose desperation over escape and started a mass killing spree without restriction, how many would die?" Li Qingshan barely lifted his eyelids. "That is due to the incompetence of the divine ministers left to guard the city." A woman in a red robe opened her eyes in the distance. Her eyes flickered with flames as she spoke in a faint voice. "Li Qingshan, are you implying that I, Zhu Hongdou, am incompetent?" Li Qingshan immediately shut his mouth. This woman, who had observed the 8-armed prison lotus furious third prince for an entire 60-year cycle, was a tenacious and vengeful person. It would be wiser for him to say less. Sect Master Nan Luo raised his hand to calm the dispute. "Well now, evil fiends like those from the corpse god cult, once found, must be eliminated. What Qingshan did was the right thing to do. It's just that his methods were quite harsh. He should act more cautiously in the future. Elder Zhang, as a former imperial scholar, you are suitable as the proctor for this sect examination. You should be more composed to set an example for the younger generation. Also, try not to always look so stern, you might frighten the children." The scholar-like old man, one of the 4 elder god phenomenons of the divine sect, Zhang Qingzheng, assented with a bow. Sitting back down, he rubbed his distressed face, trying to smile. Alas, it only appeared more frightening. Li Qingshan caught a glimpse and almost laughed out loud. "Si time has come, prepare to open the mountain gate and begin the entrance examination for the sect," said Sect Master Nan Luo solemnly, glancing at Li Qingshan, which caused him to swallow his laughter. Dang! The red-robed elder Zhu Hongdou stood up and approached the massive black gong set up behind the archway. Clutching the mallet, she gently struck down. Chapter 198. In an instant, a flick sent the black gong vibrating, exploding with the sound of thunder. The wave of sound rippled out like ripples on a pond, stirring up a wild wind and spreading across the venue in the blink of an eye, silencing the crowd instantly. Lingnan Road Jianyuan Divine Sects Yunzhou Sub-Sect, the sect's disciple assessment and selection. Begin. Fine rain drizzled, caressed by the spring breeze. In front of the divine sect mountain gate, accompanied by the striking of the great black gong and the explosion of sound waves much like the raging waters of Nine Dragons River, the surrounding circle of parents and children fell silent. 3 successive gong strikes resonated, and the voice of a stunningly beautiful woman in red reached every corner, so clear despite hundreds of feet of distance. Li Che, holding XIXI, took their places on the wooden platform set up to the left of the divine sect mountain gate. Several wooden chairs were placed there, and Li Che's group, led by Liu Qi, just managed to occupy the seats. Besides Li Che and his family, there were a few figures in splendid attire, quietly seated with their children in their arms. When Li Che's family arrived, their gazes swept over impatiently. Several wealthy and elegantly dressed women couldn't help but frown at the sight of the simply dressed Zhang Yue. By their attire, Li Che's family clearly didn't belong to any notable status. What business did they have, sitting with them? Li Che was low-key, and few in Mansion City knew of him, mostly just knowing he was a woodcarver who survived from the sacrificed Flying Thunder City. Even the fact that Li Che had joined the Kintian Observatory as a third-class guest official was known by very few. However, since Li Che's group was brought by Liu Qi, the richly dressed people, although dissatisfied, held back their ire and refrained from provocation. Li Che certainly noticed the surrounding gazes, but he didn't mind them. "Uncle Li, this spot was specifically reserved for you by the teacher. These people in splendid attire are from the noble families of the 13 cities subordinate to Mansion City. Among them are the 2 supreme spiritual children." Liu Qi leaned in and whispered to Li Che. Li Che held XIXI and found their seats, his eyebrows arching at the mention. Was it that child, the one who was rated higher than XIXI by Li Qingshan? Huang Si Xiang. Li Che asked softly. Lu Qi immediately pointed out a little boy sitting about 3 or 4 seats away. The boy, nestled next to a beautifully figured woman, was well behaved with an unusually short haircut and a bronze complexion. Although he was only 5 or 6 years old, he exuded a composed sharpness. Feeling Li Che's gaze, Huang Si Xiang turned to look over, his eyes quickly falling on XIXI. Seeing her youthful 3-year-old appearance, he immediately sneered and lifted his chin, breaking eye contact. A mere 3-year-old child is not worth considering, Huang Si Xiang judged internally. XIXI felt slighted and became irritated. Daddy, he's staring at me. Li Che rubbed his little girl's head. Later you can hit back. Have you learned everything Daddy taught you? I've learned already. Now I can already throw out little kitties, XIXI, clenching her little fists and batting her sparkling eyes, proudly declared. Lu Qi, standing nearby, was completely baffled. Little kitties? What had XIXI been learning behind his back? That one is another supreme spiritual child from the 13 cities, besides XIXI and Huang Si Xiang. He's a genius from the Lu family of Eastern Ring City, Lu Chongqing. The teacher's evaluation is, he's not as good as XIXI, Lu Qi pointed out. Li Che nodded upon hearing this. How old are they? Li Che inquired. Huang Si Xiang is 6, and Lu Chongqing is 7, Lu Qi rattled off. The two talked for a while before falling silent because on the high platform, a woman in a fiery red dress slowly walked to the edge of the wooden platform, holding a roster with the names of the spirit children selected from various cities. This person is Elder Hengdu, one of the 4 great elders of the sect, a divine minister. Lu Qi tilted his head, introducing her to XIXI and Li Che. However, no sooner had Lu Qi finished speaking than Zhu Hengdu's piercing gaze swept over to him. Don't talk nonsense. This elder is incomparably beautiful, a unique beauty of the human world, blooming like a flower at 18. Refrain from speaking recklessly, Li Che tapped Lu Kai's head, seriously correcting him. For his daughter's sake, he didn't mind stretching the truth. Lu Qi, also sensing the murderous intent, belatedly realized he might have spoken out of turn. Now, as I call the names of the spirit children, come up on stage, Elder Hengdu said, as if she heard Li Che's insincere praise, her lip curling disdainfully, yet undeniably pleased by the flattery. From Xiang Huanshen, Supreme Spiritual Child, Huang Si Xiang. As her words fell, little Huang Si Xiang, who had been sitting obediently next to the striking woman, suddenly stood up, raising his head high, his bronze skin gleaming as if oiled in the spring rain. With his head held high, being the first to be called, he walked forward proudly. He, Huang Si Xiang, would always be the first. From Flying Thunder City, Supreme Spiritual Child, Li Nuangzai, Zhu Hengdu announced, consulting the roster once more. Daddy, it sounds like they called me, XIXI excitedly said. Li Che set her down, smoothing away the creases on her tiny practice outfit, his tone gentle and encouraging. Go ahead, Daddy's cheering for you. He patted XIXI and then slipped in 2 chess pieces for extra protection. XIXI nodded and immediately scampered towards the platform. 3-year-old XIXI, so small and short, stood beside Huang Si Xiang on the platform, dwarfed by comparison. Below, a stir arose, accompanied by many chuckles and murmurs of amusement. Chapter 199. A supreme spiritual child who's 3 years old, the talent is indeed impressive, yet, too young. Being too young to take part in the assessment doesn't offer much of an advantage, it would be safer to foster her for another year and attend at 4 years old. Coming from Feilei City? Oh, then it's all right. I've heard that Feilei City was bewitched by the demon people of the corpse god cult, leading to the 1,000 infants sacrifice where many spirit children perished undeservedly. This child being able to survive and make it to Mansion City, it's not easy. The conversation below continued incessantly. However, it's very unlikely for a supreme spiritual child who's 3 years old to become a contender for a true successor. They'll probably become an inner sect disciple. First, cultivate for 1 year, then see if they can catch an elder's eye and be promoted to true successor. Zhu Hongdou glanced over at XIXI with interest, then continued to call out names. From Eastern Ring City, a supreme spiritual child, Lu Chongqing. From the Qin family, Qin Fenghuo. Quickly, a total of 15 names were called out, and 15 children stood in a line on the wooden stage. There were both boys and girls, but at a glance, they were all 6 or 7 years old uniformly. XIXI, standing among them, was a head shorter, and her small size completely overwhelmed her presence. XIXI didn't mind. Blinking her large eyes, she began to examine the boys and girls standing shoulder to shoulder with her. If she found them attractive, she would look longer, but if they were ugly, she would quickly move her gaze away, unable to bear a second. Below, however, there was already a stir. The first round is beginning with the assessment of the Supreme Spiritual Child. That means the True Successor assessment has directly commenced with these 15 Supreme Spiritual Children competing for 5 True Successor positions. 4 Elders A and D. The Sect Master. A total of 5 True Successor spots. Li Che sat below, his palms involuntarily clenched. Admittedly, he was somewhat nervous. Even though he was well aware of what to expect and very confident in XIXI's talent and strength, he couldn't help but feel anxious. This was the emotional outpouring of a father, uncontrollable, as he watched his own daughter, dainty and lively, standing on the stage. Seeing those tall and robust spirit children around her, as his own daughter seemed so small and insignificant, looking around with apparent trepidation in her eyes. Li Che's heart couldn't help but tremble, with the sudden impulse to take his daughter down. Zhang Ye, unaware of when she had grasped Li Che's hand, was also full of sweaty palms, visibly tense. Husband, can XIXI become a true successor? I hear that being accepted as a true successor and entering the inner sect are worlds apart. It becomes extremely difficult to be promoted from inner sect to true successor later on. Zhang Ye was very nervous, and her words came out in quick succession. Li Che spent a while consoling her. Don't worry, XIXI's performance won't be poor. After all, she's our daughter. Next to them, old Chen was so nervous that his whole body trembled more than when he had fled from bandits in the past, rubbing his hands incessantly and drinking from his gourd. Nurse Momo seemed unfazed, just rubbing Lu Kai's big head, much to his annoyance. Against the affection from his Shifu's wife, Lu Chi could only purse his lips and bear it. On the wooden stage, the elder Zhang Qingzheng, in charge of overseeing this assessment, stood before all the children with a solemn expression resembling a bitter lotus, approached them. Immediately, all 15 spirit children dared not even breathe. XIXI almost covered her eyes. What a stinky face! Zhang Qingzheng stood with hands clasped behind his back, and his face seemed nearly frozen from smiling, wondering why these little ones still couldn't sense the approachability radiating from him. The first round of the sect assessment is the selection for true successor. The selection for true successor consists of 3 stages. The first stage is the challenge arena. There are 5 arenas set up on the wooden stage, and I have 15 folded papers here. You will draw 1 each, which will determine the 5 who will stand in defense of the arenas while the rest will attack. The victor continues to hold the arena. Those standing in the arenas at the end will be the winners of the first stage of the true successor assessment. The second stage involves assessing divine talent, with the divine sex observation skill projecting to evaluate based on the height of the divine purple chi. The scores will be divided into 3 categories: superior, excellent, and good. As for the third stage, we'll discuss that after the first 2 stages are over. Zhang Qingzheng's eyebrows drooped, appearing as bitter as the whiskers of dried coptis. He looked towards the 15 supreme spiritual children on the stage and said with a smile. The 15 spirit children were intimidated by Zhang Qingzheng's sour face, and they quickly stood up straight, loudly acknowledging their understanding. Then, Zhang Qingzheng suddenly tossed up the 15 folded pieces of paper. Invisible chi surged around them, making the papers fly chaotically as if enclosed in an invisible, transparent sphere. Each of you take one. Upon opening it you can tell whether you are a defender or an attacker for the arena. Zhang Qingzheng stated. XIXI curiously looked at the whirlwind of folded papers floating in front of her and reached out her plump little hand to grab one. The fierce wind buffeted her arm, causing it to tremble and tingle pleasantly. After retrieving the folded paper, XIXI opened it with curiosity. Afterward, her eyes were blank because there was a character on it she could not recognize. He swept a glance over it, his eyes slightly raised, subtly shaking his head. A 3-year-old spirit child as a defender will surely be seen as an easy target and become the object of many spirit children's eager challenges for the arena. It's a pity, but that's how the rules of the true successor assessment go. If you dare to compete for true successor at 3 years old, you must show some abilities. With the bitter lotus-like face set firm, his robe flowing, Zhang Qingzheng spoke with authority. The first stage defenders are Huang Si Xiang, Qin Feng Huo, Hai Chao Sheng, Gong Yangshu. Li Nuangzai. Chapter 200. Spring breeze caresses the willows, misty rain blurs the air. Drops patter onto the wooden stage, producing rustling sounds. As the names of the guardians were read out by Zhang Qingzheng one by one, the parents watching the true successor examination below invariably gasped. The first phase of the true successor assessment had no observation skill scrutiny for meticulous examination, for fairness was key. Although everyone was a supreme spiritual child, there still were differences in their capabilities. The length of the purple aura discerned by the observation skill was the standard for assessing talent, revealing it early would inevitably affect the children's mentality and fighting spirit. Therefore, the divine sect had placed this talent assessment, which could hardly be changed, in the second phase. Li Nuangzai, that 3-year-old spirit child, has actually become a guardian in the first phase. This luck really has no match, she's going to be beaten to tears in no time, knocked off the stage, and sent back home to drink milk. Yes, a 3-year-old guarding the platform is far too inferior compared to the Qin family's Qin Feng Huo, the Hai family's Hai Chao Sheng, the Gong Yang family's Gong Yangshu, not to mention Huang Si Xiang from Xiang Huanshen, who is known for his innate divine strength. Apart from Huang Si Xiang, the other 3 seem to hail from Mansion City's 5 great clans, families of great lineage and profound heritage. Most importantly, their ages aren't just 3 years old. I think Gong Yangshu is the youngest, 5 years old. From the areas occupied by the noble families, numerous voices emerged. Was there even a suspense? They were definitely going to pick on the easy target. Who cares about losing face when bullying a 3-year-old child when it comes to contending for the position of a true successor? To become a true successor is to be nurtured by the divine sect branch with substantial resources. What does a mere lack of face amount to? Cultivation is all about competition. Standing here at 3 years old, isn't Li Nuangzai striving for the position of a true successor? Since she dares to stand here, she naturally has to be prepared for defeat. The numerous spirit children were also astute, their eyes gleaming. 5 had become guardians, and the remaining 10 were challengers. Xixi's piece of folded paper bore a guard character, meaning she needed to defend. For Xixi, whether it was attacking or defending, didn't it all mean she had to fight a battle? Xixi was so excited, she clenched her chubby fists. A fight was coming. Emperor Xixi, after 2.5 years of strenuous cultivation, was finally about to make her debut. Below. Upon seeing that Xixi was the first guardian, Zhang Ye's vision darkened as she tightly clutched Li Chei's arm. My lord, why is Xixi the first one to guard? She's only 3 years old. Isn't this just inviting a collective attack? Zhang Ye was on the verge of tears. My poor Xixi. Old Chen felt somewhat drained, slumping in his chair. My poor Xixi. Nurse Momo sighed. Li Chei quickly tried to calm his wife's emotions. You have to believe in Xixi, she's really amazing. Li Chei was somewhat torn between laughter and tears. Even old Chen, he was aware of Xixi's bone-tempering level, yet he seemed so hopeless about Xixi's prospects. Entrenched prejudices, indeed. Who says a 3-year-old is only fit for taking a beating? He had taught Xixi a lot. With her exceptional talent and his training, he had immense confidence in Xixi. Li Chei looked towards the stage, through the drizzling spring rain. However, even Li Chei felt a bit uneasy. After all, this was Xixi's first battle since her birth. Even though he had done everything to prepare Xixi. But for a 3-year-old toddler to guard a stage, it was impossible for the parents to not feel immense pressure. Zhang Qingzheng's face, as austere as a dried lotus, took on a serious look as he finished reciting the names of the guardian spirit children. He then rose with a sweep of his sleeves, and a burst of clean wind surged. It swept up the 5 guardian spirit children, causing them to rise and float as if riding the clouds, accompanied by the astonished cries of the children, before they each landed on one of the 5 platforms. Xixi, little and alone, stood on the 5th platform, blinking her spirited eyes, curiously looking around without a hint of stage fright or fear. All around, quiet settled in, and everyone took a deep breath, watching the figures on the platforms. Many eyes held pity, looking at the small, pitiful 3-year-old girl standing on the platform. Everyone could guess what this little girl would encounter next. The guardian who loses will be replaced by the challenger who wins, and the challenger will then become the new guardian. The one ultimately standing on the platform will receive the top grade score. So, if you wish to become a true successor of the divine sect, use all of your skills to remain standing to the end. Zhang Qingzheng, with lowered eyelids and robes fluttering, spoke softly. He had tried his best to give these children a smile, striving to make his stern visage a little less intimidating. Now, does anyone have questions? Upon his words, silence reigned on the platforms. He was satisfied, ready to officially announce the start of the platform battles. However, on the fifth platform, XIXI suddenly raised her arm high, and worried that Zhang Qingzheng might not see her, she hopped a few times on the spot. Me, old grandpa, I have a question. XIXI's voice was milky and loud. Many eyes were instantly drawn to her. At her words, Zhang Qingzheng tugged at the corners of his withered mouth, and with a smile, he asked, Li Nuangzai, what is your question? Is it all right to win by any means? Or are there restrictions, like not using hidden weapons or traps? XIXI asked, blinking her expectant eyes. Zhang Qingzheng was momentarily taken aback. This 3-year-old girl had considered all these details. There are no restrictions. You may even use divine weapons if you can manage to wield them. Chapter 201. Zhang Qingzheng's face, bitter as the taste of coptis, broke into a smile as he said, with this old man here, you all can give your best performance. Just aim for victory. What level are these children really at? He, a divine symbol cultivator, could surely control a battle involving a few kids whose combined ages didn't even add up to his. Okay. XIXI understands. Thank you, Grandpa. XIXI politely replied. This girl really isn't shy, incredibly bold, with a gleam in her eyes, as if on fire. Zhang Qingzheng felt overjoyed by the girl's attitude. Look at that sweet talk. Who could now say that Zhang Qingzheng always wears a scowl so grim that it scares people off? On the wooden stage, Li Qingshan, who had been curled up in a chair appearing almost asleep, suddenly perked up. He straightened his back, leaned forward, and focused on the battle happening on the stage. Sect Master Nan Luo laughed and said, this girl is lively and very bold. Additionally, her martial cultivation is quite remarkable. She has achieved bone tempering grade achievement. 3-year bone tempering grade achievement, although her physical functions are far behind those of a 7-year-old spirit child, with her strength at least 30% weaker, she nonetheless has competitive power. A promising candidate. Sect Master Nan Luo stroked his beard and laughed, pleased. It's a pity. If she could grow another year and participate in the sex assessment at 4, that would have been most prudent, and her chances highly likely. Now at 3 years old. She's probably going to be in for a hard time. This girl, is she the one you saved from Feilei City? It's peculiar indeed. Such a talent, and yet the corpse god cult overlooked her. Nan Luo commented with admiration. Li Qingshan grimaced. He had felt something amiss the moment XIXI asked Zhang Qingzheng a question. Just too darn similar. Just like Li Che. Courteous and accommodating when speaking, but a man who pulled out big mechanisms when taking action. Li Che, known as the Bull Demon, had many powerful devices, his control of mechanical weapons was remarkable. Initially, it was precisely these mechanical weapons that allowed Li Che to dominate in Feilei City and even counter-kill the city's noble family's divine cultivators. This young girl's inquiry was undoubtedly a prelude to her preparing fireworks. Could XIXI possibly be without weapons? Given how extremely Li Che adored his daughter, would he not provide mechanisms? Probably stuffed with who knows how many mechanical hidden weapons. They might as well be laced with poison. This was something the Bull Demon could certainly do. Anyone who underestimates this young girl is likely in for a big loss. Let Elder Zhang stay more focused. We don't want him scrambling in chaos and turning this into a farce. Li Qingshan chuckled, gearing up to thoroughly enjoy the show. Oh? Does this young girl possess a divine weapon? But even if she has one, at this age, she can't bring out its true power, Sect Master Nan Luo commented with a smile. Divine weapon? These little brats don't know the first thing about divine weapons. At this age, hidden weapons are far more fun than divine weapons. Li Qingshan, however, mysteriously shook his head. This piqued the curiosity of a few elders positioned high up on the platform. Elder Zhu Hongdou glanced at Li Qingshan, then her gaze fell upon the petite figure of Li Nuangzai, and she couldn't help but reveal a look of curiosity. Her disciples were mostly girls. Therefore, she tended to be more concerned about her female disciples. XIXI stood on her platform, raising her head. Finally, it was time for battle. Back at the Su family's Divine Cultivation Institute, she had suppressed all rivals. Back then, she looked down upon all sides. Unfortunately, once brought back home, she wasn't afforded the same esteem and was forced to train daily, never getting the chance to rule supreme. No matter, they were just a few hardships. Now, she, XIXI, was geared up once more, ready to fight. Come, you traitors! Come challenge your Emperor XIXI! XIXI placed her hands on her hips, her tiny chest puffed out, her smile fluttering in the spring breeze. 15 supreme spiritual children, 5 as defenders and 10 as challengers. On average, each platform could be challenged twice, though ideally. However, it was possible that everyone might focus on a single platform. It's unpredictable. Because of their fear of the defenders on other platforms and lack of confidence in winning, they might just pick an easy target. Fortunately, each challenge round was followed by half an hour of rest, allowing time to recuperate. When Zhongqing Zheng announced the start of the challenge, the 10 attacking supreme spiritual children hesitated. Each eyed the others, as if weighing their choices. Of the 5 platforms, Li Nuangzai was undoubtedly the easiest target. Coming from humble beginnings, young, and a girl. With all 3 disadvantages, how could they not be tempted to act? But who should be the first to challenge Li Nuangzai? This was indeed worth considering. After all, they were all 7-year-old children now, and challenging a 3-year-old girl seemed somewhat embarrassing. I'll go first. Lu Chongqing saw that none of the Mansion City's supreme spiritual children made a move. His eyes sharpened, and he stepped forward first. I challenge Li Nuangzai. Lu Chongqing, looking pale and tender, tall and thin, clearly well versed in martial arts, spoke in a hushed tone, emulating an adult's manner. Zhongqing Zheng glanced at him and nodded, good. The other supreme spiritual children from Mansion City did not compete with Lu Chongqing for the challenge. For example, Shangguan King Glei from the Shangguan family and Gong Yuan Liang from the Gong family, 2 supreme spiritual children from the 5 great noble families and clans, refrained from moving, which made others hesitant to act either. Chapter 202. Instead, Lu Chongqing, a supreme spiritual child from Eastern Ring City, seized the initiative. Lu Chongqing, with his hair pinned up and dressed in blue robes, held his head high and puffed out his chest. With a running start, he leaped onto the wooden stage. On the other 4 stages, Qin Fengguo, Hai Chao Sheng, Gong Yangshu and Huang Si Xiang were all watching with curiosity. Since no one was challenging them, they were keenly observing the battle unfolding on Li Nuangzai's stage. That little girl is definitely going to lose, she's certainly going to cry. She's only 3, she's still wearing diapers, still breastfed, and she's trying to compete with us. Qin Fengguo crossed his arms and started to grin. Hai Chao Sheng gave him a quiet glance. As a genius that even the Hai family's patriarch was reluctant to expose, Hai Chao Sheng possessed a maturity that belied his age. Huang Si Xiang's bronze skin subtly pulsed with blood, his arms crossed and eyes closed in meditation. He didn't care in the slightest about Li Nuangzai, who was also a supreme spiritual child from outside Mansion City. Under the gaze of nearly 10,000 onlookers, Lu Chongqing ascended the stage. Lu Chongqing, at 7 years old, stood tall on the stage. Looking down at Li Nuangzai, who only reached his waist, a slight sneer curved his lips. It wasn't hubris, it's just that, facing such a small figure, he couldn't muster any respect. If he were to reach out and press her head with his hand, even if she flailed her limbs, she might not even reach him, right? No challenge at all. This stage, he would occupy first. Little girl, just concede and go home for milk. Lu Chongqing said, chin raised and arms crossed. XIXI narrowed her eyes and stomped her foot heavily, impudent. Lu Chongqing blinked in surprise. But he found that the little figure before him leaned forward, and the wooden stage beneath his feet vibrated violently, accompanied by a loud bang alongside its high-frequency tremors. XIXI's figure shot out, her speed so fast that she seemed to turn into a black streak. So fast. Lu Changqing's hair stood on end as he spread his legs into a horse stance and let out a loud cry. His dark hair billowed as blood and energy burst out from his body, his tendons and bones making cracking sounds. 9 thick tendons writhed along his spine, and tiger roars emanated from within his bones. He, Lu Chongqing, at 7 years old, had achieved bone tempering. His fingers clenched, a trace of ruthlessness gleaming in his eyes. Lu Chongqing had to make it to the end, become the true successor of divine sect. His family had placed too many hopes on him, his mother, his father, both wanted to be proud of him. Little brat, get off the stage. This stage belongs to me. Lu Chongqing thought about all the responsibilities he had to shoulder at such a young age, his eyes reddening slightly. He raised his fist, divinity surging forth, and twisted his waist, bringing the punch down fiercely toward that sneakily approaching little girl at his waist. This punch could easily land on the little girl's forehead. Once hit, with his bone-tempering realm strength combined with the explosive force of nature nourishing like a stream, it would be enough to knock her unconscious. Lu Chongqing didn't hold back, and there was even a thrill in his eyes. The thrill of hitting someone. Suddenly, a chubby little fist clenched and thrust out. XIXI penetrated into Lu Chongqing's waist area, took a firm horse stance, sank her body, and pushed a punch horizontally. Daddy said, this was the position where the enemy struggled most to exert force, while one's own power could reach its optimal state. Using one's own perfection to strike the opponent's flaw was, according to Daddy, the way of battle. Bang! Their fists collided. Hey! Lu Chongqing's face changed in shock, that chubby little fist actually contained such terrifying force? A burst of inner strength, more fearsome than his bone-tempering realm strength, mixed with divinity, roared through. He had been twisting his waist to gather strength, not fully exerting his power, and was hit by an even greater force from the opponent. Instantly, he was overwhelmed. His punch was swept aside, and that little fist heavily smashed into his abdomen. Lu Chongqing felt as though his kidneys were about to burst. The intense pain instantly spread like a web over all the nerves in his head. Hey ha! Following the punch, XIXI immediately delivered a flying kick, which landed solidly on Lu Chongqing's chest. Lu Chongqing, with a ghastly white face and bearing unbearable pain, was kicked so hard that he flew sideways, crashing onto the stage and sliding several meters away. Wah wah wah! Whopped, my waist! Mom, wah wah, Mom! Lu Chongqing lay on the ground curled up, sobbing loudly with snot and tears running down, suddenly turning into a small crying cat. All around the stage, the crowd had already erupted into an uproar. That force was just too strong. That punch, that kick, could you believe this was a 3-year-old girl? What can a 3-year-old do? She's at an age where she can't even control her own bladder. This girl, had she truly achieved bone-tempering major accomplishment? There weren't a few among the spectators who perceived the strength of XIXI's explosive energy in that punch and kick, which sent Lu Chongqing crying. They all sensed the intensity of XIXI's energy outburst. 3 years old, bone-tempering major accomplishment. On the neighboring 4 stages, faces were changing. Huang Si Xiang, arms crossed, suddenly opened his eyes. His eyes were piercingly sharp, and his bronze skin seemed to flicker with flowing light. That little brat, so strong. Qin Feng Guo, who had been watching for a joke, also suddenly shut up, his face showing some astonishment. At 7 years old, he had only just achieved major accomplishment in bone tempering. No, this girl, what kind of demon or monster is she? On the high platform, Li Qingshan stroked his beard and laughed heartily, almost choking with laughter. What a marvelous little stinky xi! Ambushing, concealing breath, suddenly exploding with power, relentlessly attacking. Chapter 203. If she were to pull out another cute bull mask from her bosom, she would be the spitting image of the bull demon. Little bull demon. Truly like father, like daughter. This girl, a class of bull demon. The eyebrows of sect master Nan Luo from the divine sect raised slightly, a look of surprise appearing in his eyes. He was indeed very astonished. Interesting, at such a young age, yet her mind is so exquisite, her combat methods, filled with spirit. Nan Luo exclaimed in admiration. Not bad, very good indeed. Zhu Hongdou's eyes had already lit up, and she felt an urge to take XIXI under her wing. Li Qingshan rolled his eyes, combat methods full of spirit. Such techniques, if performed by the bull demon, would certainly be branded as extremely brutal, cunning, and utterly shameless. How is that possible? That 3-year-old little brat actually. So fierce, so fierce. This eruption of vital energy, this strength. Major accomplishment in bone tempering. 3-year major accomplishment in bone tempering? I couldn't even pee far when I was 3. Can the gap between people really be this big? The many parents and onlookers around the wooden stage all gasped. Watching it just felt painful. XIXI's extremely tricky punch landed on Lu Chongqing's waist, though not fatal, it was extremely humiliating. The kidneys were right there, if something went wrong. The future of the little boy could really be messed up. Did Lu Chongqing go easy? People from Eastern Ring City, many of whom were spirit children, were stunned like statues. All of them were merely superior grade and mid-grade spirit children, barely able to breathe under Lu Chongqing's oppression. But who could have imagined, Lu Chongqing, unbeaten under 7 in Eastern Ring City, got defeated by a 3-year-old toddler right from the start. Everyone was dumbfounded. Zhongqing Zheng also paused for a moment, then a strain of a wry smile spread across his bitter gourd-like face. It was actually quite genuine. 3-year major accomplishment in bone tempering, a good, very good seedling. Looks young, yet her combat experience seems somewhat seasoned. First, the attack was aimed at an extremely tricky and cunning spot. Second, the sudden explosion of bone tempering great accomplishment caught the opponent off guard, showing some interconnected planning, and extremely high combat awareness. The combat style, though raw, already had traces of nimbleness and shrewdness. Very good. As for the blow to the kidneys, what bad intentions could a child have? Innocent and naive, the strike wasn't on purpose. Zhongqing Zheng's face had barely formed a full smile when he quickly teleported onto the stage. If he hadn't appeared then, the uncertain XIXI, thinking the duel wasn't over, might have continued hammering the whining Lu Chongqing on the ground. Daddy said, the referee must call it before you stop hitting, keep going until the referee calls it, otherwise, you risk getting backstabbed. XIXI said earnestly. You can look down on your opponent in tactics, but you must never hold back in your strikes. Daddy said, this world is too dangerous, you have to be cautious and vigilant, prevent a sudden counterattack while ambushing your opponent. Fighting is a very serious matter, after all, if you're not serious, you're going to get beaten. XIXI did not want to get beaten. In this world, the only one who could beat her, was her stinky daddy. Okay. He admits defeat. This challenge, Lu Chongqing fails the attack, Li Nuan Xi successfully defends the title. Zhongqing Zheng held back Xi's advancing head with one hand and with a flick of a finger, a ray of divine brilliance landed on Lu Chongqing's body, calming the tearful, incessantly rolling Lu Chongqing down gradually. Only then did Xi seem still unsatisfied as she retracted her fist, and wiped her slightly messy bangs in annoyance. Afterward, she placed her hands on her hips, shaking her head. That's it. At 7, not so impressive after all. Way worse than Big Head Lu. Chapter 204. Spring rain drizzled incessantly. Due to the northern cold current, the temperature had significantly dropped, bringing a biting chill of a reverse spring. Below the wooden platform. After a moment of silence, suddenly there was tumult and boiling noise. Ah! My son! A woman dressed in magnificent clothes suddenly stood up with a wail, beating her chest and stamping her feet in agony, tears streaming as she stared at the platform where Lu Chongqing had been reduced to tears by XIXI. The punch XIXI landed directly on the waist and abdomen made the woman's body shudder. This malicious little wretch! The woman screamed, wanting to rush onto the platform, but before she could take 2 steps, she was stopped by a soldier of the Divine Guard Army responsible for maintaining order. On the platform, Zhongqing Zheng, clad in a scholar's attire, gave the woman a slight glance. Just a glance was enough to make the wailing woman instantly quiet, making her feel as if the most terrifying thing in the world had, in an instant, clung to her heart. A gaze from the divine minister, even though restrained, was more than the woman, merely at the cultivation as river-like level, could bear. Had it not been restrained, if he had wished, a single look from Zhongqing Zheng could collapse the divinity river inside the energy center of the woman. Mind your own tongue. Zhongqing Zheng kept a stern face. In cultivation and combat, injuries are inevitable. If you cherish your son so much, then take him home and do not let him join my divine sect. The cold words, combined with Zhongqing Zheng's stern face that looked as if even the sage owed him money. The woman was immediately so frightened that she dared not speak. Zhongqing Zheng patted XIXI's little head. Keep defending the platform, well done. Cultivation and combat are meant for victory, without victory, talking of martial ethics is utterly meaningless. Although Zhang Qingzheng was of scholarly origin and an imperial scholar of the Grand Prospect dynasty, he was by no means old-fashioned or rigid. While he had his principles, he did not mind the means used during a fight. What he cared about was the meaning of an action. Xixi's eyes immediately brightened, and she nodded incessantly. "Grandpa, you are absolutely right, Xixi understands." Zhang Qingzheng smiled, but in Xixi's eyes, grandfather's stern face seemed even more severe. Lu Chongqing has failed in his challenge. Based on his combat performance, his rating is grade C+. Zhang Qingzheng said indifferently, then lightly flicked his sleeve. A breeze suddenly surged from beneath the despondent Lu Chongqing, sending him off the platform and beside the speechless woman. "Mother!" Lu Chongqing's tears dripped incessantly. He had been careless, deceived by Xixi's 3-year-old appearance. "Son, it's all right. We can still vie for a place in the inner sect, don't cry, you did quite well." The woman helped Lu Chongqing back to their spectator spot. Zhang Qingzheng's divinity had already healed Lu Chongqing's injuries, he hardly felt any pain at present. Only a lingering fear remained in his spirit, indelible, leading to a kidney pain that seemed intermittently noticeable. That little girl is truly malicious, so cruel at just 3 years old. What will happen when she grows up? Although intimidated by Zhang Qingzheng, the woman's resentment could not be quelled. Her eyes cold, she looked toward her husband, who, however, shook his head. The little girl's father is Li Che, though he comes from Flying Thunder City, he has joined the Kintian Observatory in Mansion City and has become a third-class guest official. That's no low status. I know your family in Mansion City holds some sway, but do not act recklessly. The husband, being the patriarch of the Lu family, appeared extremely grave. His forbearance and timidity incited further dissatisfaction and suffocation in the woman's heart. She had thought her son could become a supreme spiritual child, a true successor of the divine sect. But now, all was lost. In the first match of the first round, he lost, earning a C+ rating. "I'm not satisfied." Clearly, Chongqing's performance was not just that, he was merely sabotaged by that wretched girl. The woman spoke discontentedly. Patriarch Lu spoke gravely. "What does it matter if you're not satisfied? Do you think the divine sex assessment is a child's play? Do you think they would redo it because you're not satisfied? I might indulge you at home, but out here, the world doesn't revolve as you wish. Don't cause trouble. Mansion City is not Eastern Ring City, every word and action could lead to disaster. Be cautious with your speech." It was the first time the woman saw her husband so angry, and she immediately pursed her lips. But she still muttered somewhat defiantly, "Everyone's focused on the assessment, who would have time to eavesdrop on our conversation?" Patriarch Liu's expression softened slightly. "Why the rush? Chongqing hasn't lost all chances. It's only the first segment now, there are 2 more segments to go. Chongqing still has opportunities to turn the tables." Upon hearing this, the woman's expression slightly eased. Li Che narrowed his eyes, holding his wife Zhang Ye's delicate palm, gently playing with her slender fingers. Yet a sharp and cold glint flashed through his eyes. One nasty accusation after another, such a shrew, thinking my Xixi, has no parents. It was just a normal injury from a match, and yet she holds such a grudge. Vile woman! A cold chill surged in Li Che's eyes. The last vile woman, was now grass over her grave. However, the patriarch of Lu family did seem somewhat sober and steady in the human world. But it was okay to call him, Li Che, names, but to insult his daughter, that he could not tolerate. His daughter, Li Che's daughter, should not suffer the slightest grievance. If Xixi heard someone calling her that, how heartbroken she would be. A parent, if they can't stand up when their child is being bullied, what kind of parent are they? Li Che never considered himself a good person. He was just a man who wanted to keep his daughter safe and took revenge at any slight against her. A father is always a daughter's greatest hero. Letting go of Zhang Ye's hand, he patted the back of her hand, and then with her puzzled gaze on him, Li Che stood up, his black tunic billowing in the wind. Chapter 205. Li Che stretched languidly and then, with a gentle expression, walked towards the place where the Lu family members were sitting. The woman was still comforting Lu Chongqing, who was sobbing uncontrollably in her arms. The family head of the Lu family sat with a stern face, having not spoken a word. Suddenly, the family head of the Lu family stared in shock, turned his head, and saw a young man in black clothes and a tight jacket approaching with a gentle smile. It's Li Che. The pupils of the family head of the Lu family flickered, but there was also a hint of confusion. What was this man doing here? His daughter had just brutally beaten up his son, was he here to apologize? Yes, he must be here to apologize. Rumors had it that Li Che was of a gentle nature and timid, perhaps coming to apologize for his daughter's rash actions. The family head of the Lu family exhaled and stood up, intending to accept Li Che's apology. After all, the status of Li Che as a third-class guest official at the Mansion City Kintian Observatory was truly extraordinary. However, the moment he got up, his vision blurred, and he saw Li Che's blood energy burst forth, shooting out with the speed of great accomplishment in blood exchange, appearing beside the woman. The terrifying and majestic blood energy, like mountains pressing down, and like a tiger lying down, suddenly rose and roared. The woman looked up in confusion only to feel a suffocating oppression before seeing a palm viciously strike her face, the terrifying force distorting her flesh and skin and transmitting to her cheekbones, flinging off several blood-stained teeth. The terrifying force of the major accomplishment of blood exchange directly flung the woman several meters away, causing Lu Chongqing to fall to the ground, completely dumbfounded, his sobs seemingly frozen in place. Li Che. The family head of the Lu family from Eastern Ring City was furious beyond measure. Worthless trash, vile and poisonous girl. Does it roll off your tongue so easily, as if my daughter has no parents? Li Che flicked his hand, his expression growing colder by the moment. The family head of the Lu family suddenly erupted with divinity, fiercely oppressing Li Che. This family head turned out to have cultivation in the primary god base realm, albeit a god base of the 10 cities. The oppressive force was so weak to Li Che, it was almost negligible. However, Li Che merely glanced at him coldly, while big head Liu Qi appeared behind the family head of the Lu family without any notice. The family head of the Lu family instantly retracted his divine pressure, his face grim and frustrated. He knew the identity of the child behind him with his Neza-style buns. He was a disciple of Ramshorn Sky Shatterer Li Qingshan. Too hard to provoke. At least in Mansion City, he dared not provoke him. Master Li, quite an imposing display. The family head of the Lu family clenched his fists, his voice icy. Far away, the woman who had her teeth shattered by Li Che screamed in terror, her screams accompanied by a whistling sound from the gaps left by missing teeth. Husband, he hit me, that despicable man hit me, ah! Ooh, husband, help me! The woman screamed, but the family head of the Lu family cowered. He saw his wife being beaten and did not dare to retaliate, like an ostrich burying its head. Just standing up for my daughter, just wanted to tell your wife to not insult anyone else's daughter in front of their parents. Li Che said. Discover stories at Empire. The family head of the Lu family clenched his fists but said nothing more, because the fault, indeed lay with his wife. Insult someone else's daughter, and they beat you up, don't you deserve it? So frustrating. They say Li Che is gentle and timid, where is the gentleness? He's obviously very arrogant. But, thinking about it, one can understand. After all, it involved Li Che's daughter, any father who sees someone bullying his daughter might well go completely mad. The family head of the Lu family exhaled, left to swallow his frustration. Li Che, with Liu Qi, returned to his original spot. Zhang Ye's eyes sparkled brightly as she stared incessantly at Li Che. My husband, who defends his own so fiercely, how can he be so handsome? Zhang Ye found herself growing more and more admiring of Li Che. Yes. Tonight, I'll prepare several sinew-transforming positions to ask for my husband's guidance. Li Che stretched out a large hand and ruffled Zhang Ye's head, then casually sat down, leaning against the Taishi chair, unfazed. Old Chen was not surprised, although Li Che was generally gentle, when it came to his family, he could become extremely fierce. Back in Feilei City, when the spirit infant sect targeted XIXI, Li Che, despite his fear of killing, still took decisive action. The first time Li Che killed someone, it was old Chen who led the way. So, don't bully the honest people. Push an honest person to the limit, and they can become even more terrifying than a madman. This interlude, though it attracted quite a few gazes, did not garner much attention. Most were still focused on the high platform where the supreme spiritual children were. After XIXI won a match, she could choose to rest, for up to half an hour at most, but as her victory over Lu Chongqing had not drained much of her vitality, she only rested briefly. Zhongqing Zheng released a touch of divinity, restoring Xixi's condition to perfection. Continue. Zhongqing Zheng looked over the remaining 14 supreme spiritual children and declared. Xixi defeated Lu Chongqing with a thunderous posture. Although only 3 years old, she ensured that the other children would no longer underestimate her. Because Xixi demonstrated the strength of major accomplishment in bone tempering, she was already not weaker than Hai Chao Sheng, Qin Feng Huo, Huang Si Xiang, and the others. This 3-year-old child was no longer a soft persimmon but a tough nut, extremely difficult to crack. However, the Gongyang family's Gongyang Xiu, owing to her also being quite young, inadvertently replaced Xixi as the soft persimmon. Gongyang Xiu was only 5 and seemed to have only achieved major accomplishment in sinew transforming, she hadn't yet done bone tempering. Without a doubt, she was challenged by someone. On the platform, blood energies clashed. Gongyang Xiu's eyes turned red as she unleashed her best efforts, exhibiting her sophisticated martial techniques. Chapter 206. This is the exclusive technique of the Gongyang family, the Qunkan 12 Seals. Although Gongyang Xiu was only 5 years old, he had already successfully mastered one seal and made his initial entry into this secret art. You should know that entering the world of secret arts is far from an easy matter. Discover exclusive content at Empire. Regrettably, Gongyang Xiu was still defeated and fell off the arena. He stood up, dusted himself off, his expression solemn, unlike Lu Chongqing, who would cry out in pain upon defeat. After stepping down from the arena, he returned to the Gongyang family's area. Grandpa, I've lost. Gongyang Xiu came to Gongyang Lianquan's side, bowed his head, finally revealing a child's slight sense of grievance. You've already performed very well. The Jin Ao who challenged you, after all, has a bone tempering minor accomplishment, and is 2.5 years your senior. It's quite commendable that you were able to fight a good 100 moves before losing to him. He is a spirit child secretly trained by the Gold Split Gate, and also knows some of the Gold Split Gate's unique martial techniques. It's normal that you couldn't defeat him. Didn't the Divine Sect give you an A rating for your performance? Gongyang Liancheng patted Gongyang Xiu's little head. Gongyang Xiu did indeed feel comforted, standing obediently at Gongyang Lianquan's side, looking toward the arena. He gazed in Xixi's direction, his eyes shining brightly. He was 5 years old and had been beaten. Xixi was 3 years old and had defeated her opponent. Although their opponents were different from each other, Xixi was so amazing. Defending and attacking the arena, after a round of challenges, there was only one change in the 5 guardian spirit children's seats on the arena. Gongyang Xiu was replaced by Jin Ao, also a supreme spiritual child with bone tempering minor accomplishment. Now, the cultivation of many of the arena defending spirit children had been basically revealed after one round of challenges. Hai Chao Sheng, 7 years old, bone tempering completion. Qin Feng Huo, 7 years old, bone tempering great achievement. Huang Si Xiang, 6 years old, bone tempering minor accomplishment. Li Nuan Xi, 3 years old. Bone tempering great achievement. There were no easy targets, even if it were only Huang Si Xiang with bone tempering minor accomplishment, he also had innate divine strength, and the power he erupted even surpassed those with bone tempering great achievement. There were still 5 supreme spiritual children left, among which Gong Yuan Liang from the Gong family and Shangguan King Glai from the Shangguan family hadn't made their move yet. Basically, after this round of challenges, it could be determined that the 5 supreme spiritual children who successfully held their position would get an A rating. And these 5 supreme spiritual children had a very great chance of becoming the true successors of the divine sect. The fine spring rain suddenly became rapid and fierce in the wind. Shangguan King Glai from the Shangguan family took a step forward, his tiptoes touched the ground, energy surged, and he leaped up onto the arena where Xixi was. On the other side, Gong Yuan Liang from the Gong family took a deep look at Shangguan King Glai and then chose the arena of Huang Si Xiang. In fact, Gong Yuan Liang felt that this 3-year-old girl was much more difficult to deal with than Huang Si Xiang. Watching her defeat Lu Chongqing, the hairs on Gong Yuan Liang's scalp stood on end. Covert, malicious, practicing breath concealment, and bursting forth when an opportunity arose. To mercilessly beat the enemy. Such an opponent was the most terrifying. His aunt Gong Yunli was employed in the Kintian Observatory and had taken him to see many cultivators wandering the martial world. Those cultivators, it was they who caused this spine-tingling sensation in him. Therefore, he waited for Shangguan King Glai to choose before making his choice. Dang! The black gong was struck again, causing waves of sound to ripple through the air. Amid the misty rain, a light breeze brushed through, bringing with it a touch of the comfort of spring. Around the elevated stage, the audience watching the battle also knew that this assessment of the supreme spiritual children was likely coming to an end. I wish to challenge her. Shang Guanqing Glei's hair billowed, his eyes full of aggression. Although he was only 7 years old, his build was more like that of a teenager, his arms long and narrow, his legs strong and powerful. Zhang Qingzheng nodded, go ahead. As his words fell, Zhang Qingzheng's figure floated away from the arena, and Xixi looked up at Shang Guanqing Glei. This Shang Guanqing Glei was much more robust than Lu Chongqing. Nearly reaching 1.7 meters tall, compared to the 3-year-old Xixi, the visual impact was indeed quite significant. I am Shang Guanqing Glei, little sister, don't cry if you lose. Shang Guanqing Glei smiled with narrowed eyes, his robust body continuously flowed with vigorous blood and energy, as if a Jia serpent was slowly slithering around him. The crackling sounds like popping beans emanated from his tendons and bones. Bone tempering great achievement. Xixi clenched her chubby fists excitedly, her face gradually showing excitement. Evil minister! Kneel down! Xixi assumed the starting position for a martial duel. Suddenly, Xixi seemed to remember something and looked at Shang Guanqing Glei. By the way, do you also share the surname Shang Guan? What's your relationship with Ms. Qinghong? Shang Guanqing Glei's fingers curled like hooks, with arcs of electricity crackling. Upon hearing the question, he paused, then curled his lip in disgust. Shang Guan Qinghong? She's just a mongrel. Shang Guanqing Glei naturally knew who Shang Guan Qinghong was. He only had a different mother from his father's side. But his mother had told him that Shang Guan Qinghong was just an accident, an illegitimate. Her mother was born a lowly maid, who seduced his father and thus gave birth to Qinghong, so Shang Guanqing Glei had a strong aversion to this name. Xixi's little brow furrowed, don't you dare speak of Ms. Qinghong like that. Shang Guanqing Glei, however, smirked, little brat, you're getting cocky. Turns out you're friends with that mongrel sister of mine? That makes sense, 2 mongrels together. His words ignited a flash of rage in Xixi's eyes. Below the arena, in the Kintian Observatory's viewing stand, Shang Guan Qinghong was leisurely cracking sunflower seeds. Hearing Shang Guanqing Glei's words, she paused in her cracking, then continued indifferently as if unbothered. She had long grown accustomed to the Shang Guan family's attitude toward her. Chapter 207. Shang Guan Zhenggen's concubines loathed her even more than they loathed her own mother. Even though she was picked by the deputy inspector of Kintian Observatory and had now become a civil servant with an iron rice bowl, it was the same. Shang Guan Qinghong didn't care about their opinions either. Wasn't this also a form of disappointment and numbness? Above the arena, the battle began. Xixi became serious, she wanted to beat Shang Guanqing Glei until he cried. Even though he was Ms. Qinghong's brother, Xixi would not hold back. People with foul mouths should be beaten mercilessly. Bang! Xixi's body moved, instantly springing forward, a diminutive figure leveraging the rebounding force from a stomp on the arena floor, propelling forward with incredible speed. Tap tap tap! Xixi's feet tapped the ground rapidly, her body spinning at high speed, scattering the mist and dust, as she appeared behind Shang Guanqing Glei's waist. Just like when she defeated Lu Chongqing, she repeated the same technique. Trivial tricks, you think I'm trash from the countryside? Shang Guanqing Glei laughed wildly, twisted his waist, his body sank down, and he lashed out with a ferocious leg whip, drawing a wide arc, viciously aiming it at Xixi. Countless arcs of lightning surged on that leg, emanating a heart-palpitating pressure. The superior martial technique of the Shang Guan family, the Pale Thunder Body. Although I've only just begun, it's already quite extraordinary. Enhancement of the physical body, enhancement of vitality and blood, both have seen great improvement. Shang Guanqing Glei's eyes widened in fury, with divine energy roaring out as if a torrent of divinity was surging, manifesting behind him. However, Xixi, faced with Shang Guanqing Glei's almost suffocating counterattack, had an unwavering determination in her eyes, with not a hint of panic. She shook her little hand, and a miniaturized wood raven was clutched, flung out, aimed at Shang Guanqing Glei's chest. Boom boom! Instantly, an explosion erupted, with flames surging atop the arena. But countless electric arcs moved about, accompanied by the angered roar of Shangguan King Glai, as his leg whip struck again, bringing with it a terrifying power that could break bones. But the raven ultimately gave Xixi a brief opportunity. Xixi also shouted loudly. "Come out, little kitty!" With her 5 fingers clenched, she pushed forward a punch, the little kitty taught by her father. As if a young tiger's roar. Xixi's fist hammered out, aiming for Shangguan King Glai's striking leg. Fist and leg collided. As if a young tiger's phantom emerged from behind Xixi, a tiger paw striking towards the surging electric arcs of the pale thunder body. Thud! Xixi's body sprung out, and after landing, stepped back steadily, accompanied by a clangorous sound. Xixi took out a big item from the Kunkan jade around her neck. On the other side, Shangguan King Glai's leg that had been lashed out retracted, his trousers were already torn, with rags hanging off, his entire leg trembling non-stop, sending out stinging pains from the tendons and bones, perhaps, they were fractured. His eyes revealed an expression of disbelief. Superior martial arts. Master level. What Xixi had just used was the White Tiger Chaotic Wind Fist, perfected by Li Che. Normally, it is impossible for a 3-year-old child to master a profound superior martial technique to the level of a master. That would require so much dedicated training, so much tempering, and an extremely high level of martial arts insight and talent. But the 3-year-old Xixi had just displayed White Tiger Chaotic Wind Fist and had actually produced the beginnings of artistic conception. Isn't this the level of a master? Not only was Shangguan King Glai shocked, but up on the high platform, the sect master of Divine Sect, Nan Luo, Elder Zhu Hongdou, and others, as well as Li Qingshan, were all stirred, their eyes becoming serious. Is that really a master's martial technique? A 3-year-old master? Li Qingshan was stunned. Wait a minute, how long has it been, and this girl has grown to such an extent? How had the girl been practicing during this time? The little girl, who had been complaining every day about being tired to death as Liu Qi had said, practicing inconsistently like fishing for 3 days and sun-drying the nets for 2, managed to master a martial technique to the level of a master? A 3-year-old grasping a master-level superior martial arts. Was this kid the reincarnation of a martial saint? Below. Li Che was wearing a warm smile, the corners of his lips involuntarily turning upward. In order to ensure that Xixi had enough of an ace up her sleeve in this assessment for the true successor and to make sure she wouldn't get hurt, when Li Che used the Immaculate Heart Taoist fruit to refine Xixi's body, he invoked the Dragon Elephant Vajra Taoist fruit, blending his understanding of the White Tiger Chaotic Wind Fist with the divinity of the Immaculate Heart Taoist fruit. He had subtly passed on his knowledge to Xixi. Normally, indeed, it's very difficult for a 3-year-old child to master a superior martial technique, even beginning it would be very good. But Xixi was different. She had a cheat. Her dad always gave her cheats. The situation on the fighting platform suddenly reversed, and Shangguan King Glai, who once had a powerful momentum, now seemed to deflate somewhat. However, it also brought out some fierceness in him. Shangguan King Glai was very aware of where his advantages lay. He was 7 years old, older, stronger, more durable, and certainly not something a 3-year-old child could compete with. Drag it out, and he would win. However, a gust of wind suddenly tore through the hazy misty rain. Shangguan King Glai then saw Xixi grab a contraption nearly as big as her body. The 6 dark muzzle openings of the metal tubes were pointed at him, like 6 venom-loaded snakes, hissing at him. Stay updated with Empire. Ms. Qinghong is your own sister, and you dare call her a wench. You such a foul-mouthed person. Master Niu said. We can use fireworks. To stuff your damned mouth. Xixi stomped her foot as if to summon the wind upwards, with her already messy hair dancing wildly in the spring breeze and rain, her clothes clinging to her figure. Excitement appeared on her face, her eyes sparkled, suddenly ablaze with brilliant light. Let's set off fireworks. Chapter 208. The spring rain was piercingly cold and icy, lashing against the face, fully blooming and diffusing the chill of 10,000 coldness. Shangguan King Glai's entire body was interwoven with darting arcs of lightning, yet his eyes suddenly widened, staring at the big weapon Xixi was shouldering. Those 6 metallic tubes, which resembled venomous snakes, made his body hair stand on end. An overwhelmingly intense threat of death enveloped his heart. I'm going to die. The perceptual abilities of a supreme spiritual child were extremely strong, possessing a keenness far surpassing ordinary people. Shang Guanqinglei's perception was naturally exceptional as well. His body stiffened, his frame of major accomplishment in bone tempering, at that moment, felt as if filled with mercury and weighed down with lead. Fireworks. What fireworks? It was unknown whether it was sweat or raindrops that silently slid down Shang Guanqinglei's forehead. He stared intently at the wooden and metal contraption in Xixi's hands. Watching the little girl take out the mechanism, she seemed to go mad, constantly shouting about fireworks. Shang Guanqinglei felt an inexplicable fear rising within him. In the air. At some point, a smell of gunpowder had filled the air. Let the fireworks begin. Ah ha ha ha. Xixi's eyes seemed to be embedded with the brightest stars, sparkling and bursting with brilliance. The next moment, she pulled the trigger. Boom boom boom. A terrifying explosion erupted instantly above the arena, accompanied by an incredibly dazzling burst of light. The shockwaves swept through, tearing apart the endless spring rain. An extremely strong gale and sound roar burst forth from the accustomed Nemo immortal artisan Gatling in Xixi's hands. The recoil made Xixi's little body vibrate at a high frequency, with her new clothes clinging tightly to her body due to the blasting air currents, outlining her little belly. R. The screeching sound, the dazzling fireworks, and the surging shockwave. The 6 fast-spinning metallic tubes glowed red-hot, emitting a scorching temperature, energized by injected life force, squeezing and ejecting the contained wood raven at an extremely high burst speed. Rat-a-tat-a-tat-a. Countless splendid golden lightning bolts, resembling golden sword chi, swiftly slashed out, tearing apart the leisurely spring rain of the equinox. Bang bang bang! Shang Guanqinglei's body hair stood on end. Fast. Too fast. What in the world is this thing? He cursed inwardly, but his body didn't hesitate to move, stomping heavily on the arena floor, propelling himself upwards, breaking into a rapid sprint. His body's life force was recklessly expelling as if on the brink of death. The spot where he had been standing was instantly engulfed by the blast, the explosive shockwave fiercely lashing his body. The violent wind stirred, the air currents shot out, and the wooden arena exploded into splinters, shooting out like steel needles, scraping past Shang Guanqinglei's cheek. His eyes seemed to lose focus. Because just after propelling himself barely 2 or 3 body lengths away, he couldn't continue to dodge. The terrifying wood ravens that swept across followed closely, exploding into a continuous fountain of smoke and dust on the arena. The wooden black ravens ejected from the weapon Xixi held seemed to flap their wings, the scream of 1,000 ravens piercing the air. Shang Guanqinglei was inevitably engulfed. Countless golden light exploded in his pupils, and the intense smoke engulfed him. Accompanied by that, came the pain that almost made him faint, flooding over him like a tidal wave. There was no escape. There was absolutely no escape. At that moment, Shang Guanqinglei finally let out a scream, unable to suppress it, a painful howl from deep within his throat. Ah! Ta-da-day! Countless wood ravens smashed onto Shang Guanqinglei's body, a strong burnt smell spreading out as he hung suspended in the air, hit by myriad wood ravens. Hit until he couldn't fall down, like a beautiful painting hanging in the spring rain. Blood mist, another burst of blood mist, exploded all around. The red and gold colors intertwined creating a breathtakingly beautiful firework. The intense black dust, along with the fleeting explosive golden sparks, were filled with an artistic beauty. The world was utterly silent. The only sounds left were Xixi's excited shrieks as the wood ravens surged out of the gun barrel. And ta-day! Ta-da-da-da-day! On and off the arena, there was a death-like silence. Everyone stared, tongue-tied, at Xixi who had drawn a huge firearm and fiercely shot at Shang Guanqinglei. With her insane and excited demeanor, combined with the fireworks she created, everyone felt a slight chill. You call this fireworks? This can be called fireworks. Fireworks of death, maybe. Nearby, on another stage, Gong Yuan Liang and Huang Xiang almost stopped fighting simultaneously. Watching the heavily abused Shang Guanqinglei, Gong Yuan Liang let out a long breath. Indeed, as expected. This girl, really dangerous. Shang Guanqinglei, was this the rhythm of being beaten to death? Gong Yuan Liang and Huang Xiang shivered almost at the same time, then, the two resumed their battle. Luckily, the first part was about to end, they didn't need to face this crazy girl. Huang Xiang trembled slightly, this girl, was she that fierce? He remembered looking down from the stage at Xixi once, his eyes full of disdain. He admitted he was wrong now, his perspective had been flawed. Below the arena, in the Shangguan family area, sitting leisurely in a taishi chair, eating fruits, ready to watch his son severely humiliate that 3-year-old girl, Shangguan family head Shangguan Zhengheng, suddenly sat up. His beard and hair flying, his eyes fixed on the arena. Originally, seeing XIXI block Shangguan King Glei's pale thunder body with her master realm martial arts, he was quite surprised, thinking this little girl had indeed great talent, and if she grew up, she might actually match Qing Lei. Chapter 209. But when XIXI pulled out the custom Nemo Immortal Artisan Gatling, and the wood raven sprayed out engulfed Shangguan King Glei, he couldn't stay relaxed any longer. With a swift move, he almost instantly appeared at the edge of the platform. Stop! A roar burst forth from the depths of Shangguan Zhenggen's throat. With a clutch of his fingers, the heavens and earth seemed to be sealed off, a terrifying oppression, like mountains, pressed down toward XIXI. The illusory phase pressure, like the rush of a mountain torrent, roared forward. However, just as he made his move, 2 figures appeared before him almost back to back. The one in front was Zhang Qingzheng, wearing a scholar's robe, his face more bitterly pained, dead fish eyes staring at the shiny-haired, well-groomed Shangguan Zhengheng, and coldly said, "Shangguan Zhengheng, do you want to die?" Beside Zhang Qingzheng was Li Qingshan, dressed in blue, clutching the ramhorn hammer that had slipped from his sleeve, coldly fixing his gaze on Shangguan Zhengheng, itching to strike. "My son is about to be beaten to death." Shangguan Zhenggen's face turned cold, his beard and hair wildly fluttering, his extremely luxurious gold silk robe dancing wildly in the spring rain. "Dead or alive, as the host of the assessment, am I not more aware than you? Besides, even if only a breath remains, I can still save him." Zhang Qingzheng's beard gently floated, his dead fish eyes indifferently gazing at Shangguan Zhengheng. Compared to the life and death of Shangguan King Glei, Zhang Qingzheng felt maintaining the order of the divine sex assessment was more important. Even if Shangguan Zhengheng was an illusory phase cultivator, he shouldn't interfere with the order of the divine sect. "You!" Shangguan Zhengheng was irate, this pedantic and idiotic old scholar. "It's not your son who's being beaten to death, of course you don't care." Nonetheless, Shangguan Zhengheng also detected the tense atmosphere and refrained from intervening further. He turned his head to look at the platform. Li Qingshan lamented, watching the impressive fireworks show XIXI had just put on, he too couldn't help but itch to join in. If Shangguan Zhengheng had decided to forcefully intervene, he would have had to reluctantly crush his head. Regrettably, Shangguan Zhengheng chickened out. Experience Tales at Empire. Zhang Qingzheng seemed to teleport onto the platform where XIXI had stopped the barrage, the 6 hot and slowly decelerating metal barrels pointed skyward, emitting drifting blue smoke. XIXI breathed heavily and her little face was flushed red, filled with excitement from setting off fireworks. She finally set off the fireworks. "Happy?" XIXI's face beamed brightly. Zhang Qingzheng's face, long bitter, watched her. XIXI hurriedly stowed the Nemo Gatling, her small hands twisted together and held just above her rear end in a pose of guilty distress. Zhang Qingzheng's heart melted, but his bitter face showed no emotion, revealing no joy or sorrow. "No harm, you had asked me beforehand, and I had said, divine weapons and mechanisms are not restricted, because with me here, your lives are not at risk." Zhang Qingzheng stated calmly, comforting XIXI not to worry. Zhang Qingzheng turned his head to look at the intensely smoking Shangguan King Glei, finally landing on the platform. With a sweep of his sleeve, divinity like rain, converged into a flowing cloud, hovering above Shangguan King Glei's head, pouring down. The smoke and dust dispersed, revealing Shangguan King Glei's condition. Hiss! A sharp intake of breath, from the spectators around the platform. "Too awful!" Shangguan King Glei's body was charred black, his skin split and flesh burst, the person almost unrecognizable, his thickly piled up charred skin on his body emitting the smell of roasted meat. He lay on the ground, his eyes vacant, having lost focus. Only his still rising and falling chest indicated he was not yet dead, still breathing. Accompanied by the divinity rainwater sprinkled by Zhang Qingzheng, like long-awaited rain after a drought, Shangguan King Glei was pulled back from the brink, flesh twitching, and the broken wooden splinters embedded in his flesh were expelled by the twitching flesh. The injuries gradually healed, and life was pulled back. He didn't die, but the psychological scars left might be even more severe than Lu Chongqing's. He's not dead. Xixi stretched her neck to look and sighed in relief. Xixi didn't want to kill anyone, although Shang Guanqing Glei was a bit mouthy and annoying. But after all, he was the biological brother of her good friend Ms. Qinghong. Xixi didn't want to leave a bad impression on Ms. Qinghong. Xixi sighed in relief, just thinking about fireworks made her somewhat uncontrollable. Luckily, he didn't die. The divinity rainwater showered, and Shang Guanqing Glei's injuries healed almost completely, old flesh gone, tender new flesh emerged. Shang Guanqing Glei fails the challenge, Li Nuangzai succeeds in defense. For the first segment, Shang Guanqing Glei receives a score of lower A. Li Nuangzai receives a score of upper A. Zhongqing Zheng's scholar's robe fluttered as he spoke softly. Shang Guan Zhengheng, his face cold, said nothing, lifting his hand in a gesture, and Shang Guanqing Glei was immediately enveloped by an invisible force, brought to his side. Holding his son, although the injuries had healed, the scars from the flesh burst still hadn't faded. Good, very good. Shang Guan Zhengheng was extremely distressed, this was his favorite son. Talented, much like him in his youth, he had high hopes, never expecting that just in the first segment, he would be eliminated. A score of lower A is in the third tier among supreme spiritual children. An upper A score is only awarded to supreme spiritual children who still stand on the platform at the end of the first segment. In fact, the 5 supreme spiritual children standing on the platform are essentially the true successors of the divine sect, and in the second segment with the observation skill survey, there won't be much difference among them. Chapter 210. Dad. It hurts so much. Shang Guanqing Glei was held in Shang Guan Zhenggen's arms, and his 5'7" frame seemed slightly comical when embraced. But Shang Guan Zhenggen's heart was aching deeply. It's okay, my precious son. Dad won't let you suffer in vain. A cold, desolate light flitted across Shang Guan Zhenggen's eyes, along with an icy killing intent. He, Shang Guan Zhengheng, had never suffered such a great loss before. In the distance, at the location of the Qintian Observatory, Shang Guan Qinghong looked at this affectionate display between father and son with a sneer, her eyes filled with disappointment and disgust. In her memory, Shang Guan Zhengheng had never treated her so tenderly, and even as she had grown up, the number of times she had seen Shang Guan Zhengheng were few and far between. Her gaze turned to Xixi. A tender warmth couldn't help but surge in her eyes. She knew Xixi had been angered because of Shang Guanqing Glei's repeated instances of calling her a bastard. However, Shang Guan Qinghong had not expected Xixi to be so fierce. Interesting, that mechanism, seems like the one rumored to be mastered by the bull demon, the Tang family mechanism Wood Raven that can shoot explosive projectiles, an enhanced version of the Tang family's mechanisms. Lu He stood by, squinting at the spectacle with a hint of admiration in his eyes. Such an impressive mechanical hidden weapon. The rumors say that Li's daughter Xixi is a descendant of the bull demon, and now it seems, it's indeed the case. The bull demon was known for his expertise with hidden weapons. Hai Chuanying beside him took a deep breath. He couldn't help but compare and simulate in his mind. If the spirit child genius of the Hai family, Hai Chaosheng, faced Xixi armed with such mechanical hidden weapons, could he win? The conclusion was discouraging to him. He couldn't win, not at all. Although Hai Chaosheng had achieved bone tempering completion at the age of 7, given Shang Guanqing Glei's performance, at most it would just prolong the fight by a few breaths. The final outcome would not be much better than Shang Guanqing Glei's. The explosive power of that Wood Raven, just a single shot had enough power to disrupt the bone tempering circulation of qi and blood. And that Xixi had over 100 shots. It was equivalent to 100 bone-tempered individuals launching a simultaneous attack. Bone tempering completion, couldn't block it. Even an ordinary 3 transfers of blood change might not survive, unless one had forged a divine foundation, using the powerful divine power to resist. Explore more stories with Empire. I admit. I was wrong. Hai Chuanying took another deep breath. 3 years old is also an age not to be underestimated. In the family seats, Li Chei's smile was harder to suppress than aim the immortal work Barrett, a satisfied gleam appeared in his eyes. As expected of Li Chei's daughter, those fireworks she set off. They were quite up to his standard. Although her accuracy was still lacking, many of the techniques for setting off fireworks were quite rough, and she had difficulty with the steady pressure control of the immortal artisan Gatling. This was still the weakened version of the immortal artisan Gatling. If it were the bull demon's version, a few shots might have fallen apart Xixi's delicate frame. With grave. Li Che never stopped improving and upgrading the Nemo Immortal Artisan Gatling and Nemo Immortal Artisan Barrett. The main upgrade was the Wood Raven, and the carrying mechanisms naturally had to be upgraded as well. By his side, Zhangya clung to Li Che's arm, utterly bewildered and questioning life as she watched their 3-year-old daughter on the stage, brandishing the mechanism, unstoppable in her ferocity. Is this Zhangya's daughter? She turned to glance at her husband and, realizing his identity as the bull demon, suddenly felt a sense of clarity. However, she also had some worries troubling her heart. Husband, do you think Xixi is too violent? Zhangya looked at Li Che, her voice lowered to a whisper as she asked. Violent? Not at all. Didn't she stop before killing Shangguan King Glai? How can that be considered violent? Besides, a girl should have some ability to protect herself, so she won't be bullied in the future. Li Che was unconcerned. Where was the violence when Xixi was clearly so gentle? If it were up to him, Shangguan King Glai would already be a pile of corpses, the kind with his Kyunkan jade plundered. Compared to him, Xixi was far too gentle. Zhangya immediately fell silent. After all, discussing violence with her husband seemed a bit like preaching to the choir. Li Che patted his wife's hand, his gaze falling on Shangguan Zhengheng below the stage, who was attempting to suppress Xixi with his imposing aura. His eyes narrowed slightly. Bullying the young, a distinguished void aspect expert, actually planning to use his void aspect aura to oppress a 3-year-old child. Are you even human? Fiend. Li Che's notebook, long kept hidden, was silently taken out, and he jotted down Shangguan Zhenggen's name in it. This grudge was noted. The intervention of Li Qingshan and Zhang Qingzheng, protecting Xixi together, prevented him from taking further action. After Zhang Qingzheng announced the end of the first segment with Xixi's top grade score, Li Qingnian carried Xixi back to Li Che and the others. Mommy! The moment she returned, Xixi immediately burrowed into Zhangya's embrace, her head snuggling restlessly. Xixi was so scared, terrified Xixi. Xixi lamented pitifully. Zhangya quickly fumbled to comfort her. Xixi, my treasure, are you feeling uncomfortable anywhere? Tell mommy, let me check. Zhangya inspected Xixi, her face showing deep compassion. So young and yet having to compete on the stage with older children by an entire generation, how hard it must be. That Shangguan King Glai is so ugly and scary, Xixi was so afraid. Xixi wants to eat braised pork, the big pieces, mommy should cook it. Xixi continued to snuggle against Zhangya, and opportunistically put forward her own conditions. Alright, after we get home, mommy will cook it for you. Zhangya caressed Xixi's head, saying tenderly. Mommy is the best, I love mommy. Xixi's little face kept rubbing against Zhangya's long legs.